Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Untitled Africa. Once again, this is Chris coming to you live from Central Pennsylvania. You might recognize that song in the background. That would be one Steve Hofmyer singing the Blue Bull song. Anyway, just a few things very quickly. Thank you to everybody who's a sub on the channel, subscriber. We have 6,630 subscribers this morning after just a couple of months on the station. 96 members have signed up as Chris White Africa members. Thank you so much. Let us send our greetings out to the Right Reverend Rawhide, who unfortunately had a stroke yesterday, but somehow managed to watch the Night Owls edition from his hospital bed. There's a salute out to you, Right Reverend Rawhide. Thank you so much for that. That's very impressive support for the channel. Also to my mom. Happy birthday, Mom. Happy 55th birthday. No, she's not really 55. It's an inside joke I've had with my mother for a few decades. Anyway, folks, 55th anniversary, 55th birthday anniversary from Mom. She's a little bit older than that. But happy birthday, Mom, August 7th, 2020. Right, folks, well, there you go. That's the Blue Bull song in the background. And who knows, we might be able to get Steve Hofmyer to perform a little bit of something on the program today. Let's see how it goes. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate you arriving today for Chris White Africa, for Indaba Africa. And my special guest today is Steve Hofmyer. Ladies and gentlemen, actor, stage performer, songwriter, musician, and cultural rights activist, Steve Hofmyer. He's been in South Africa's headlines for decades, and you have him here on Chris White Africa. We've caught him on holiday. I think he's on holiday. So we're going to get him on the channel here in just a moment, folks. I'd like to welcome him to the channel. And all of you out there who are watching, feel free to ask questions, do your super chats as you go along. I'll do my best to bring the super chats in. We've got some questions asked of Steve. We're going to talk about his acting career, his music career, rugby. Gee, imagine me talking about rugby. Not a surprise for anybody. Also, we are going to talk about his recent video short on discrimination, which he did in Afrikaans on the 24th of July, and again on the 2nd in August in English, which I'm grateful for because it was a little easier for me to follow in English. So with that, folks, I'm going to invite Steve into the conversation now. See if we can get him in here. Here he comes. Hey, Steve.
Yes, sir. Chris, I'm on. How's it going?
It's great. Let me just adjust a few windows here so we get a better view for everybody. And I just need to get rid of that. All right, come on. Sorry. All right, I'm good. Now we got to get Steve back. And there we go. All right, Steve Hofmyer. Hoe gaat het?
Het gaat baie goed. Thank you for asking, sir. It's good to meet you in person. Listen, I'm an old soldier. I'd like to call you Colonel. I want to call you Colonel all the time, but you can tell me I can call you Chris. It'll be great.
No, that's great. I was going to bring that up too. You served in the old South African Defense Force back in the early 80s, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that was 83, 84. Our war was basically at that stage in Angola, between Southwest Africa and Angola. Today it's Namibia. Very long ago, but I do remember it, and I do treasure some of the memories and, of course, the discipline that came from that.
Well, that's what's often lost on people when they talk about military service. And so, listen, Steve, I'll cut you a little slack here. You can call me Chris. It doesn't have to be Colonel.
I thought that was quite nostalgic for me to call someone Colonel again. I would have loved that. So thank you very much. It's an honor to meet you.
No, likewise, it's an honor to meet you. Listen, I heard about you many years ago, following South Africa. Of course, you were on television after you did your military career. I wouldn't say military career. It was mandatory service, yes? It was compulsory service back then.
Yeah, it was. It was 2 years compulsory. You could stick around. You could become permanent service if you wanted to. I did the 2-year course.
Well, that sounds like a smart plan.
Yeah, I'm very glad I did it. I'm very glad. I'm probably not the best soldier in the world, but I'm certainly glad I did that.
No, but you talk about something that's very important there. It's excuse me, about discipline that people pick up. And you know, it's kind of, I did a video on Sia Khaleesi and cutting up your Springboks jerseys, which I'm not cutting up my Springboks jerseys over Sia Khaleesi. I've got like 40 of them, and that'd be a hell of a waste of resources. But yeah. in that video, I talked about, you know, Sia Khaleesi was, I quoted him verbatim in what he said in his video. And then, of course, I get attacked by the people who don't bother to watch the video and just, why did you cut your jerseys up? I didn't cut them up. Watch the video. Anyway, so I get attacked and, exactly, you know, exactly. They just see the title and they just go, and that's what they do. But in the video, I made a comparison. I said, listen, sorry. Sia Khaleesi, I'm all choked up, Steve. Sorry. Fanboy here. But in the video, I talked about, you know, when you join a different culture, and the Springboks are a culture, like it or love it, every team, every organization has some sort of culture, whether it's a business or it's a community. And when you join a culture, there are certain elements of it you have to accept and adopt as the norms and mores of it. So, for instance, you and I went in the military. I didn't get to say, okay, well, you know what? I don't like getting up at 4:30, so I think we should get up at 6:30 because that's how we get up back where I come from. Or, you know what? Since I'm going to basic training and you do it in English, but I'm not an English speaker, I think you should change for me because I speak Spanish as a first language. No, you don't get to do that.
Exactly.
And so, as I recall, I hear a lot of the English-speaking South Africans always used to moan about the SADF because basic training was in Afrikaans, and they had a hard time with Afrikaans, a lot of them.
Yeah, it's true. In the army, it was like that. In fact, I remember one specific time during training when we were marching, and after 5 weeks of Afrikaans instructions being called out, they decided to have one weekend in English and one weekend in Afrikaans. And some of these Afrikaans instructors had to obviously change over to English, and they had to translate and they had to do the course. But if some of them got us to march, but they couldn't get us to stop. And at that stage, during basics, you marched, and you will keep on marching until you reach Mozambique, but you will not stop marching until someone says halt. And the Afrikaans guy couldn't get the English for it. They fetched us half a kilometer down the road.
Well,
True, yeah. I do come from a school, which was a parallel medium school, which we had 1 week of Afrikaans, 1 week of English, which today I'm very grateful for. You and I can have a chat in English.
No, your English, of course, is excellent. But no, I just think that'd be a real problem, particularly if you were on the border post near Grootfontein in Namibia. I mean, if you just keep marching, you wind right up amidst the UNITA troops at some point.
Exactly, yeah. Now, I always thought, if I don't think we lost the war, but if we didn't do well in the war, it could have been our troop there, which were completely Afrikaners and they didn't take well to English instruction.
Well, that might be what it was. All right, let's shift a little bit, Steve, from the military stuff. By the way, just I don't know if you know, I served 36 and a half years in the Army, 34 of those active duty. I just left active service in October, hence the Pete Retief beard, Paul Kruger look I've got going on here. So,
and your exceptional sense of taste in the clothes you're wearing, you really came well. You survived the army well.
Well, it's interesting.
Look at that jersey.
Steve mentions that. I'll stand up so people can see it. This is a Blue Bulls jersey. There you go.
Merry Christmas.
And for those who know and follow my channel pretty seriously, you know that I always wear rugby jerseys of some sort. I've got about 100 different rugby jerseys, probably about 30 Springbok jerseys. And just for you, notice what's back here. In respect for my guest, here you go.
Yes.
There you go.
Oh, fantastic. It's a blue bull. Yeah,
That's
right. Is it signed? I can't see from
No,
it's very good.
It's not signed. Ons bloed is blauw.
It's rugby. The rugby ball, yeah. We call it rugby. You call it rugby as well, I suppose.
Yeah, we call it rugby. No, I'm just saying that I got that Loftus when I was there in the shop. So,
hey, you're an avid sports supporter and a rugby supporter. I've never heard that so much from the Americas yet, but I'm very impressed.
No, I've been a massive rugby supporter. I was introduced to the sport at university back in everyone turn your ears down, don't listen, 1982 at university. And when I was a freshman, one of the upperclassmen said, "You come into the game tonight." I'm like, "The game's tomorrow, man, Saturday." He goes, "No, not football, rugby." I'm like, "I'm from Appalachia. We're just happy to have paved roads and electricity," which is a true story, by the way. Yeah, so I went to the game, and there was no stands. We're just standing on the side in touch, and I didn't even know what in touch meant, but watching the game, and I'm like, it's not football. It's not soccer, thank God. It's not Australian rules football. I don't know. I like it. It's cool. And so I just became a fan then. We had no national side back then. So what I started doing was I was studying history at university. And I said, I'm a historian. Let me see which teams are the best. And I looked at England, and the All Blacks and the Springboks had long been established, great teams. And I said, you know what? I have an interest in South Africa. I like the Springbok emblem. I like the history. I'm going to be a Springbok fan. And became a Springbok fan then.
Great.
So, of course, Steve,
that's wonderful.
Well, the first question I was asked once people found out I was a Springboks fan, what, are you a racist?
We've been called that so many times in the last 20 years that it actually rolls off my back at this stage of the game.
The word has been devalued so badly. On your side of the Atlantic, on this side of the Atlantic, the word has been devalued. People constantly confuse bigotry with racism. It's very frustrating.
Yeah. It's not even a great insult anymore. In fact, I laugh about it most of the time. The threshold is so low to be called a racist in South Africa. You can eat the wrong food and be called a racist. So I'm hoping this will be a phase that your country and my country will survive and it'll pass. It'll go and we'll come back to real definitions again and what a real crime against another human actually looks like, and that words and terms will be freed again. We can actually have expression again and freedom of opinions. It seems like we've lost that world, which used to be the left world. today it seems to be the conservatives begging for a platform to say anything, and the left arriving with a whole Bible of words that you aren't allowed to say. I remember a very specific time when that was the role of the right wing and the conservatives to come with all the rules, and you aren't allowed to say this and you aren't allowed to say that. Yeah, the roles are so reversed that I actually don't know if I'm left or right anymore. It's a bit crazy.
No, it absolutely is crazy. And it's funny to hear people in the Western liberal tradition, which of course is not liberal like in America, the political left, but the liberal tradition of human rights, of the Magna Carta, of the Declaration of Independence, of the Constitution.
The classical.
That's right. The classical liberalism. That's right. Which I firmly fall into that. But politically in the U.S., I'm a conservative and not far to the right, but to the right. But anyway, it's funny to see the people who believe in classical liberalism run around and exclaim and make all these comments and things and deny things. Like just not to digress too far from the topic in hand, Steve, but when the armed insurrection, not demonstrations, armed insurrection took place in this country after the BLM started back at the beginning of June. Yeah. We had mayors in cities saying, okay, it's fine for these people to be out protesting and marching around being shoulder to shoulder, no mask, because somehow that's safer than people trying to go to the State House to protest peacefully, maintaining social distance and wearing masks, simply because those people are to the right of the spectrum and these people are to the left. The insanity of it is just beyond conception.
It is incredible. It is incredible.
It is.
But as I say in the video, if you have conservative thoughts, the synonym for conservative political thought is actually just cautiousness. We're just cautious. We can be as progressive as anybody else. On some topics, I can be as left as anybody else. I'm also an artist. An artist needs to be left because we need that space to express ourselves. When it comes to a theology debate, I'll be fairly liberal. When it comes to conserving my culture and how quickly I can lose it, I am extremely right-wing, because that's the only way I can really protect my culture and my language, especially, which is faltering. It's being put to a real test in my country. It's the third or fourth most spoken language. More people speak it than English, but it is threatened completely. So when it comes to those, I'm overly cautious, slightly more conservative than I should be. So when people say, are you left or right or conservative or liberal, I always ask them, well, what are we talking about? Are we talking about, do I have any AC/DC records? Are we talking about art? Are we talking about God? Are we talking about culture?
No, I think it's an absolutely fair point to make. It's interesting because here in the U.S., most of the people involved in art and culture are captured by the left. And a lot of them don't really know what they're talking about or what they're getting into. And once they're into it, they're in it. And it's hard to step back. Now, there are a number of known conservatives, outspoken conservatives in Hollywood and in music and such. But by and large, it seems like that group's just captured. And I've been concerned, honestly, Steve, because I'm a huge Afrikaans music fan. I follow everybody. By the way, so you're my second Afrikaans performer I've had on the channel, and my other is a dear friend of mine whom I know that you know. I'll mention her now and bring her up again later on, but that is Giselle, the Boermeisie from Grootfontein. Yes.
That is incredible. Yes, I know exactly what that is. Oh, yes. Wonderful.
I understand that you guys actually performed on stage at least once together.
We have performed together. Yes, I know.
Yeah, she's amazing.
We're a small singing community, but we have an extremely loyal audience. So we can sing Afrikaans forever and have a career. And yeah, that's how I meet many of these artists.
No, she's absolutely fantastic. She did her because of lockdown. She was supposed to do a tour with her album, because she did a country album, but her first Afrikaans album was just coming out after about 4 years of work to get it put together. Ons Mense. And so she was supposed to tour South Africa, Namibia, and the U.S. And it got canceled, of course, because of COVID. So what she and her manager, Johan Eisel, did is they did a live debut concert. And that was early days of my channel. And they asked me if I would stream it. I streamed her debut album live on my channel. It was awesome.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. It's kind of new technology for us now during COVID. We're all learning how to go online with concerts. We're suffering with technology. In fact, we go to music shops and they say, we don't know how you guys do it, because we know we cater for live performances. Now, so wonderful if you got that right. We've had now 5 months of online concerts, and looks like it's going to be there for the considerable future.
Yeah, but I've seen some of the online concerts, and not commenting good or bad about anybody there or here, but I've seen some of them. Some people just kind of sit in their room with a guitar and do a paid concert. But Giselle's concert was actually professionally done with videos, with a green screen behind her. She actually sang on the concert, so it wasn't recorded.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've not spent too much time with Giselle right now, but we'll get past it in a second. But I don't know if you've heard her song. Zuid-Afrika, which is on this album, and then Ons Mense. Beautiful songs, wonderful.
I think she sang it live. I haven't, not the album, but I think I heard her sing it live.
Oh, you may have.
On a show once.
Well, she has Sight Vest, of course, which is about Namibia. That was kind of a big one a few years ago.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, so let's shift a little bit from that, and maybe I'll come back later and try to get you to get some other Afrikaans performers on my channel, but we'll do that later. Anyway.
Please.
All right, so listen, okay, so we talked about military stuff, and then later you found yourself going into acting. Did you do stage performing first, or did you go on to television first? Which was the first step?
No, it was stage first. Part of the training, of course, going to drama school, as we call it here. I went straight from army and straight from Bloemfontein, where I was based at that stage, to Pretoria into drama school. Now, for a hardcore soldier to walk into drama school, that's quite an eye-opener. But I did like it. I got used to it. I had to learn Shakespeare. I had to go on stage and do live performance. I had to one of my courses was makeup, stuff that you had to learn. You learn a lot about performance. And from there, the television channels would shop around the drama schools for new artists, new acts, new talent. And I was picked up in my first year and in my second year with a very big TV series in South Africa. We only had about 3 channels at that stage, so it was quite easy to be well known in South Africa very quickly. Today, we have, of course, the same amount of channels in most other countries. So today, you can be number 1 in one channel and 200 other channels won't know who you are. But in my day, I was luckier. If you got famous on one of those 3 channels, the whole country knew who you were. So that was my beginning. And of course, from there onwards, I could always fall back on my first love and passion, which was being a creative artist, a songwriter, and of course, a singer later on.
So every now and then, I've got some super chats. People are tossing some money this way. They're hoying some rand and such here. So if you don't mind, I'm going to interrupt and mention these things. So first one here
Please.
I saw was from Robin. Robin says, good day to everyone. Happy birthday to Chris's mom. It's my mother's birthday today, so happy birthday.
It's my son's birthday. He's turning 17 today as well. Congratulations to your mom.
Well, congratulations to your son. That's awesome. And then Anna-Marie Foster said, sorry, Steve, thought you were a yes man, but now know better. Yes, we can talk to move forward, and not yes, we can move forward and take all my rights. I think she's in sentiment with you there. I didn't quite understand what she was getting at.
Yes, it does sound, I have an idea what she's getting at here. In Afrikaans, we also have a thing called the ja broer, which is a yes brother, which means he says yes to anything and to any company that he's in. It's quite a nice metaphor. But you can also be a yes person in South Africa if you voted yes for the new South Africa, which I am guilty of as well. But that was like back in 1991 maybe.
You're talking
I was
about
very young.
Talking about the referendum, 1992.
The referendum, yeah. So I'm one of the Afrikaners who voted yes. I do regret it to some degrees, and I'll tell you which degrees. But yeah, we can come back to that later. So I'm trying to work out her comment there.
No, that makes sense. I think people are being kind because they know that I'm trying to run the show, interview my guest, and also read. And while I do read Afrikaans, ek praat nie Afrikaans nie. So I mean I can speak it, but you guys, especially guys in Northwest, those Boer accents, they got to go slow. Got to go slow.
They got to absolutely. But it's wonderful. There are a lot of parallels between us and many Americans, of course. Us and the Scottish, us and the Irish, us and the Welsh, us and some people in Belgium and some of the French. There's a lot of parallels there. But, I think we were the one lost Western community that came to Africa and never came back. We're a tough bunch.
Yeah.
We are always minorities. We bring clever Western ideas to agriculture, but in Africa, none of those ideas counted. So I'm very proud of my little folk, my little tribe, as we call them. But I do find allegiances all over the world. Also the Greeks, some Spaniards as well. I like it. I like to see the Russians, many Russians as well. Great allegiances we form. Culturally, we understand each other, although we don't share much of culture at all.
Well, when it comes to, for instance, the Cape Coloreds and the Afrikaners and the Boers, the Truck Boers, there are a lot of parallels historically between the U.S. and South Africa.
Yes.
For this constant trying to get away from central governance authority, independence, reliance on faith, family, and of course, to trust in weapons, guns, which help protect us. But that same sort of constant, as the Germans would say, this isn't a positive way to say it, but it's a phrase that makes sense, Drang nach Osten. In other words, that thrust towards east.
Yes.
For you guys, it was, for the Coloreds, it was getting away from the Cape and the Griquas and such, and the Orlums moving up into what became the Kimberley area, and then those who went, like the Rehoboth Basters, who went up into Namibia. And then, of course, for the Truck Boers, after fighting a series of 9 wars with the Xhosa, border wars down there, a lot of them said, to heck with this, the Brits are annoying, and took off and went north in the 1830s. And a lot of those parallels are identical. There's a lot of similarities between the South African spirit and the American spirit.
Absolutely. It's a pioneering spirit, basically. It's the one that breaks away and it pioneers and it conquers uncharted territories until it can find independence. Now, for my people, that almost never came. When it was eventually granted to us, it was ripped away very quickly. It was called apartheid and just slovenly grabbed away for the simple reason that we were a minority in our own sovereignty. So we can come back to that as well. But I suppose that's where the history is probably diverged, is that we always stayed a minority in the country or in the wider border, where I suppose the Americans became the majority, and everybody who assimilated to American ways shared the language, eventually shared the culture, probably the history. I know there's a lot of diversity in America, like in South Africa, but we are 12, 13, sometimes 25 different nations, no shared collective habits, different languages, different religions, and we're still trying to get it right. And many days we do actually get it right. I think we are a unique nation as well, but we have very many different tribes and a long way to go before we can call ourselves one happy, clappy nation. We're not quite there yet.
Well, and I think that's the one divergence we have, is you're right, is what makes an American is not white, black, it's not Muslim, it's not Christian, Jewish, it's not animist. It's an idea. It's about being American, and it's the things we've talked about, and people who accept and adopt that are Americans, and it's as simple as that. So that's, while there has been a overwhelming plurality of white Anglo-Saxons early in our history, whatever the history has been, to get to the stage before 2020, we have to stop in not 2019, but before we get to 2020, being an American meant something, and it didn't matter if you were a Cuban who escaped Fidel Castro and landed in Florida, or your ancestors came over like mine did in 1621 from England and was the brother of the first royal governor of the Jamestown Colony, Virginia. It really doesn't matter. We're Americans, and that's unique about us. I think it's we are defined as a citizens of a nation rather than a folk, I should say.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, I'm envious of that. We don't quite have that history.
Well, listen, I was going to get to this at the end, but he's throwing some super chats, so I'm going to mention it now. He has a beef with you, I think, but anyway, so I don't run off on me here. But Ronaldo Hos is tossing a few super chats. He says hello, and so
yes, hi.
Okay, so I tossed that in there, but we'll get to Ronaldo at the end of the show if there's time.
I'm ready for any questions from anybody.
Okay.
I usually appeal to my host that if he's ready to broadcast it, I'm ready to answer it.
Okay, well, there you go. Yeah, by the way, folks, you should know that Steve set no preconditions for this interview. It was very generous of him. Also, from the moment that I reached Steve's agent, she was responsive to me within like 48 hours, and Steve agreed it with a matter of hours after that. So thank you so much for that, Steve. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
I've had one South African guest who promised to be on the show and then disappeared on me. I won't say who that is, Nadine. Anyway,
you'll get it back, I'm sure.
Okay, I'm sure. All right. Well, let me talk back to television. Okay, so I first saw you on Egoli. That's the first place I ever saw you, and you were on television there. It's like a soap opera. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, Egoli was the first soap opera in the history of South Africa. We were always a bit slow to these entertaining emancipations. After the 3 channels became 4 channels, became more, we started making our own series. My first role was a thing called Agter elke man, which is translated to Behind Every Man, which means there's a woman. 52 episodes. It took us about 3 years to shoot. It was an outdoor shoot, indoor, like you shoot movies. So that can't qualify as a soapy. Soapy is indoor, studio orientated. You can shoot about an episode per day, which was unheard of in my time. We shot the entire day on 3 minutes of television. So Egoli was one of the roles. I started falling into villain roles, and all my roles were villain ever since then. Egoli was also a villain role. I was in and out of it. I met my first wife there many, many years ago. We were both actors in the same series. So that's what I remember quite vividly. It was also much of the production company and the owner of Egoli, the soap opera, were also the creative people behind Agter elke man, which was my first experience on real professional television.
Well, listen, I've done some stage acting myself. I'm not an actor, but I've done some stage acting at university, and it was in German. And at the time, I'm fluent in German, but at the time I was good in German, not fluent. So you can imagine doing things like Gerhard Hauptmann, who's a very serious performance, and Der Bibelpelz was one of the plays I did, and I didn't understand all the vocabulary. So you can imagine trying to act in a language where you don't understand everything. And my director, my German instructor, is like, no, you're doing it wrong. And I'm like, what's wrong with it? I read it. She's like, no, that's not what the word means. So that's got to be a challenge. But,
well, I got English roles without standing much of English myself,
Well, okay.
Afrikaans is my mother tongue.
All right. So I'll grab the oar behind you because we're rowing in the same direction in that canoe.
Absolutely. We wing it, and when we get there, it works out for some other reason.
Yeah, so Egoli, what was it like? I mean, doing a soap opera is very different than doing a motion picture or doing a television,
Yeah,
even a television series like a sitcom. It's a very different setting. So I imagine the
yeah,
sets get moved around pretty quickly and makeup and all
yeah.
this stuff. I mean, what's that like?
Yeah. Well, the soap opera is the most economic way of making a movie, basically, because you have all your sets built in the same theater, same studios. The most important thing is there's no change of cameras, which means all cameras are on all the time. If I speak, the camera there is on me, and if you speak, the camera behind me is on you. Where in film, we change the entire scene. Everything is on you, all the lighting is on you, and then we stop. We turn it all around. You stay where you are. We move all the cameras behind you, all the lights behind you, and we shoot this part. So you can see why it will take 3-4 times longer. Of course, you drive far between locations, of course. I would say that's probably technically the biggest differences between them. I enjoyed that because I enjoyed drama school, and it was inevitable that I would go to theater and to movies. I did many episodes of television. Eventually got my own talk show, which ran for 10 years, which was, of course, not acting. But all in all, what that opened the door for me initially was I could carry on with my primary passion, which was singing. And I really, from there onwards, I could do anything I wanted. And singing was what I wanted to do. And that is 32 CDs ago. About 10 movies ago, I've written about 11 books. So it's been an extremely creative and fruitful career for me there at the southernmost point of Africa, which is it's a place of turmoil. But I suppose lots of creativity comes from turmoil.
No, that's a good point. That's the sort of thing that does. It's kind of like in a kiln. It forges like a steel forge. It kind of forges creativity, adversity. Absolutely, no doubt about that. No, that's what I want to say, Steve. So I wrote an article on LinkedIn a couple of years ago, and I said, "Is this a new age, a new dawn for Afrikaans music?" Because ironically, while the language of Afrikaans is under assault, it's been removed as a medium of instruction at Stellenbosch of all places. That's insane to me. I mean, I get it in other universities, but Stellenbosch, it's not the median. So it's under assault all over.
Yeah, but it's worse than insane. That is our last Afrikaans university. In fact, that is the mother of Afrikaans universities in an Afrikaans province. You won't believe this. The majority of people there speak Afrikaans as report Afrikaans as a mother tongue. They also understand it. How in that province we gave up our last Afrikaans university just blows the mind. It shows you the kind of karma, the kind of revenge that's out there for a language. Where all the universities have turned to English. I suppose they feel that there will be a kind of a reconciliatory way of this. If communication is good in South Africa, there may be something to be said for that. But now if you want a big university, you have to build it yourself. And it looks like some of the, or one of our local organizations has done exactly that. They've erected an Afrikaans museum, Afrikaans university, a technical university. And I think they're going to do much more. And of course, we're all very excited about that. But between you and I tour my country. I do 3 shows per week for 32 years. And most of the time when I'm used somewhere to sing, the profits will go to an Afrikaner idea. And sometimes they move out of the town. They don't want to beg the schools anymore for language policies. They don't want to beg people for a Christian, Western-orientated school. They go outside, they get a piece of private property, they flatten it, they build a rugby field first, then they put up prefab classrooms, and they start old traditional Afrikaans education, which is still, the Afrikaans schools that are left in South Africa are still in the top 10 most cherished educational institutions. So that's what's happening here. We are surviving again. We are pioneers again. We may not be traveling, but we're traveling inwardly and trying to survive that way as a culture.
You know, it's absolutely, I find it mind-boggling that Afrikaans is so distant. It's the second most widely spoken mother tongue in South Africa. It's the second most widely spoken language. You said fourth earlier, but I think it's still second. But whatever, that's quibbling. But it is a widely spoken language. And what gets me is that when I started learning Afrikaans back in the 1980s, self-teaching myself, of course, the first question was, "What, are you a racist?" I'm like, okay, first off, okay. I'd already learned German, and I learned when I learned German that if you want to understand a people, if you learn their language, it can help immensely. Because, for instance, in German, if you want to call someone something foul, you don't use the F word, the F-bomb. You call them something like a donkey, alte Esel. That's the worst insult in German possible. You wouldn't get that unless you learn the language. So anyway. But,
okay, all right, yeah.
So I started learning Afrikaans because I wanted to understand why the National Party was into apartheid, why the system still exists and all that. So I started learning it. And, of course, I'm asking, I'm a racist. And the first thing I say is, wait a second. Okay, first off, most of the people that speak it as a first language aren't even white. So what are you talking about? Let's get this story straight. The white-speaking Afrikaners are actually a minority in their own language.
Minority.
Yeah, minority in their own language.
Right.
Yeah.
At this stage, people of color are the majority speakers of the Afrikaans language. It has hybrid forms out there. There are very different provinces that speak a different kind of Afrikaans. But all in all, more people of color are now speaking Afrikaans. And I think Afrikaans is probably one of the most understood languages in South Africa. Of course, they want English to be that language, and it'll come to that. But at this stage of the course, if you're discriminating against Afrikaans, you're probably discriminating against the majority of South Africans, black and white.
Exactly right. Well, to digress a little bit, just like discriminating in the tourism relief fund, in which they have discriminated against minority-owned businesses, and 2 out of 3 employees at minority-owned businesses are black South Africans. So how does that help anybody?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Stupidity. But another super chat here from Ronaldo Jos. I always get his name mispronounced. I'm doing my best. My G's are tough. So, I have a therapy Hemsboch. I don't know if you see my therapy Hemsboch here. This is
get that G sound out there.
Yeah. This is why I have a therapy Hemsboch. He's Wilbur. He when I get triggered by Juju or somebody like that, I pull him out. So.
My Gemsboek, yeah. I know in the Stem, which is the most controversial anthem of the previous regime,
yes,
a very favorite song of mine because it's a very old Afrikaans song. That's got a line in there that says "Oor jou ewige gebergtes." Jou ewige gebergtes. It's got about 3 G's in a row there. And if you want to floor anybody who wants to learn to speak Afrikaans, get that sentence right first.
Exactly right.
That's a lot of Gemsboek in there.
That's right. But Ronaldo Jos gave another super chat. He said he's got to run. All jokes aside, says, Steve, I would love to host you for a chat, not a debate. Have a lekker evening, everyone. Yeah, Ronaldo, I was going to bring this up at the end. Ronaldo, I guess, says he's blocked on your Twitter account, and he doesn't know what that is, and he's always got this running gag on his show. So we don't have to get into that, but he'd like to invite you to his channel. Oh, you want to get into it?
Yeah, recently there was a poll in which he beat me, and I said if he did beat me, I would speak to him. But I must say, there's not a lot of personal contempt or anything between me and Ronaldo.
Yeah.
I've just at some stage about 4 years ago, I started saying yes when I can and no when I can't. I found that because I'm controversial, people like to put me on their shows for content. They hope I misstep somewhere. They hope that conversation will make the front page news. Steve Hofmyer will be punished and your show will get all the hits, kind of thing. I started being sensitive towards that. I'm not saying Ronaldo is that person.
Yeah.
But apart from that, after 30 years of explaining myself, I'm quite tired of entertaining the left wing. We've gone through the debates, especially younger guys come in and they relaunch debates, which I had when I was 18 and 23. I suppose I'm just not a very good politician. I don't want to explain myself all the time, but I am an activist, and it's my duty to defend my campaigns. And I fear nobody. I'm honest about them. I'm willing to learn. If Ronaldo can teach me something, then we certainly have a date. It'll be no problem, but I'll have to back at home again, probably post-COVID. It'll be a pleasure to highlight, to enlighten anybody on why I feel the way I feel and what I defend. I defend a very specific thing. It's my own convictions. It's my life story. I don't care if other people don't share it. This is how I see it. Of course, we live in a world where how you see it and your opinions could incriminate you. And of course, half my vocabulary is incriminating. How must I go on a debate or a talk show if half my vocabulary can incriminate me? That's the kind of world we live in. A left-wing person can't say that. I think I don't think he's a far left person. I think he's a liberal person. So we'll share the classical liberal policies out there. But as for the rest, I think we'll disagree on most things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So Ronaldo is he's a classical liberal, but he's a little left on some things. But yeah, okay, Ronaldo, if you've left already, because he said he had to go, but he might be lurking there. Steve says he would be interested in chatting with you. So there, we'll go from there. But
I lost that bet. I'm a man of my word.
Yeah, you lost exactly. Well, I didn't know you had that going on, or I would have brought that up. But yeah, no, it's but that's you're right about this, Steve. It's a gotcha thing. It's like Donald Trump. Donald Trump says something and they take 5 seconds of what he said, add a context, and even when he quotes someone else that says something, and then they attribute it to Donald Trump and they call him a racist and a bigot and a xenophobe, and I'm like, what the, it's just absolutely insane. It just happens all the time. So for me,
it's just crazy.
What happened to me recently is that I interviewed Phil Craig from the Cape Independence Advocacy Group back in May. Yeah. And then some clown, black nationalist clown, ANC stalwart, I think he is anyway, in South Africa, took the first minute and 50 seconds of that, which was when I was reading the guy's biography. I was just reading it before I introduced him. I actually read it. I don't usually read biographies. I just tell people. But in this case, I read it. And I read the biography, and he took that clip of me on the screen in this look, and then they put it up and they called me, there's some English guy who immigrated to South Africa, 20 years ago, and called me a racist and all this stuff. I'm like, so I went back to Twitter when someone told me about it, and I said, okay, first off, when you steal content, at least, cite it properly. I'm not English. I'm an American. If you're in doubt, go look at my LinkedIn page. So it's just, but
don't cite it selectively.
Exactly.
Show the whole thing, the whole sentence, the whole interview, at least. Or the questions before and after. Yeah, no, they are like that. Those are lazy thinkers. Philosophically, they are very lazy thinkers. They don't feel like quoting the whole thing and doing the homework.
But it works because people respond, especially on Twitter. Twitter's the domain of 12-year-old girls. Look at me, I got my nails done, sort of thing. So it just drives me nuts.
Yeah.
So
Twitter is a very dirty kitchen.
It is.
You've got to have the real heart to walk in there. It's not Instagram and it's not quite Facebook. I don't think Twitter is big anymore. It is quite relevant if you think that most of the things that I got into trouble for in the wider mainstream media happened on Twitter. So it's still effective, I would say. It's still quite relevant. But it's a dirty kitchen. Mostly I come in the mornings, I make a few comments, answer a few things, look at a few things, and then I leave. I can sometimes leave for 2 days. People think they've won arguments against me because I disappeared after they ask questions, but I don't really care. I don't really care to answer. Now, another thing we can discuss maybe is that Twitter has taught us a lot of other things. It's taught us a lot of fake news, of course, but Twitter has taught us that everything could be fake news and that all news could be fake news and that all news should be doubted and that all news from here onwards is merely a clue. You don't get a thing like news anymore. You only get a clue. And you're going to go confirm the things you want to read about in more than one or two platforms, news platforms, before you decide you like it. But I don't care retweeting or not retweeting or agreeing or placing a smiley emoji, because I don't care if people like what I said or not, because nothing in there is very factual for me. It's not the gospel anyway, for that matter.
No, absolutely. I agree with you. Yeah, no, it's absolutely the case. Flying Board just did a super chat. Malema calling for Zimbabwe embassy close. What do you think of that? I don't know if he's asking you or me, Steve. I've done a video about this. Juju has stuck his nose in the Zimbabwe situation. And while I have issues with ZANU-PF and their capricious governance and their abuse of citizens there, not just farmers, but the whole country, Juju did raise a couple questions about this farming thing, about compensating $3.5 billion. Where's the money going to come from? But that's a question I asked too. But Malema's sticking his nose in everything, trying to stir up a hornet's nest, and the ZANU-PF actually spanked him. They swung back at him. Were you paying attention to this story?
That's so.
Yeah.
Because I don't know the detail, of course, but I do know you did speak about that, and I do know that Juju has some wider aspirations, messianic aspirations. You come from nowhere, you become this very powerful leader. You are the most quoted person in history. You have one of the smallest parties, but it doesn't matter. You are controversial. I suppose he would like to be a messiah for more countries in Africa than just South Africa. And now it seems that that's not going to be as easy as he thought.
No, he's already getting spanked a few years ago for sticking his nose in Botswana's business. They told him to get out of here, And he's trying to stick it in Namibia, a little bit of success because there's a little useless EFF party like in Namibia, but trying to do it in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe's already screwed up enough by Mugabe and his successors, Mnangagwa and all the others. So Juju can't make it any worse. So it's just entertaining from my perspective.
I think he's flatlining in South Africa as well. He may have just reached the ceiling of his party's growth. Although in the previous election, he was one of the two parties that did show growth. But he's got a long way to go to take over. He's going to have to I don't know if there's going to be some sort of joining up with the ANC eventually if he wants all that power, if he wants to become president for that matter. But all in all, I find him quite vile. I find that he can say things that he's allowed to get away with that I will be cut up. But the things that he says that I will be cut up for aren't things that I'm willing to say. I don't care for calling for more blood. My campaign is calling for less blood. My campaign is about having more South Africans alive, more South Africans with work, more South Africans working. His is completely the opposite. He wants socialism. He wants this kind of a centralization. He wants a nationalization. And of course, Black Lives Matter, I suppose, would suit him because, it means more in my pocket if I can claim the eternal victim. That's all the world of Juju, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. It's old.
No, we can move beyond that. He can get away with saying things, and then a distraught woman who's been nearly killed and carjacked is angry, and she becomes a felon and goes to prison for free speech, which isn't free in South Africa because she has the temerity to utter a K word and insult herself. She's wrong. It was wrong. It was inappropriate, but the woman was in shock, not even considered. He can walk on a stage and say what he wants and get away with it. So, but we'll move on from that. Yeah.
But she got 2-3 year jail sentence, and he hasn't served a single month in prison. In fact, I don't even think he's pursued for the things he's saying,
No.
and he's calling for the death of it. But if you use an ugly word that hurts someone's little heart and feelings, you can be locked up for 3. I actually have a friend who's a researcher, very good with algorithms and statistics, and he counts articles, which means he sits there and says, for the time that Juju said this, he got 800 articles in 5 months. That woman would get like 1,500 articles for the things she said. And so he does, to show you that mainstream media is culpable as well. And they are, they kind of motivate us. They are the fire behind it as well. And they are very guilty. I blame them squarely for much of for Juju's success anyway.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, folks, you're listening to Chris White Africa on the Indaba Africa channel here on YouTube. This is Chris coming to you live from Central Pennsylvania. My special guest today for the special feature is none other than South African singer, songwriter, stage performer, actor, cultural activist, and an icon. I call him a legend. Yes, a legend. Steve Hofmyer.
Thank you so much.
So
that sounds wonderful. Repeat all that.
Yeah.
And I'm also a very good father, by the way.
Yeah, well, I steal that line from Kurt Darren, Yes and Legend. So,
beautiful song. Yes,
that's awesome. Yeah, I love that song. So listen, let's switch back a little real quick back to your performing career. So you were on Egoli, you left eventually, and then next thing you know, you're on Seun and Die Land, which I love that show because they put subtitles so I can follow everything in the show.
That's right. Yeah, Seun and Die Land, that's more in the modern age. Some of the people that broke away from the Egoli crowd became the Seun and Die Land crowd. I think there was space for more soapy. Seun and Die Land is probably going to break the records for some of the longest aired soap operas in history.
This year, it broke it for South Africa. I'm pretty sure it broke.
Yeah. Well, I hope you're right. I get a feeling it is. But by then, I kind of reached some over-satiated relationship with the soap operas. I also found it a lot of work. I was becoming lazy. To be a soap opera, that's a hell of a lot of work. You study at night, you study your text for the next morning. You can't arrive there not knowing your text, and everybody else does, because you're going to waste their time. Seun and Die Land, also a very well-oiled machine, but didn't stay there long, came back with the same character always, once or twice, maybe 3 times. But that basically was the end of my relationship with soap operas. I still said yes to movies. I still did musicals in that time as well. I did Joseph and Summer Holiday, and I did Sound of Music. And there was even a musical about my life, which was attended by about 50,000 people. So I suppose I've had my fair share of that as well. I'm getting a little too old for the young roles. At this stage, I can only play the grandfather in The Boyfriend at this stage of the game. So my knees are probably not good enough for kneeling, as you know, but they're definitely not good enough for musicals. At this stage, I'm enjoying my career more than ever. I'm over 50 now, and I'm really enjoying my career. I can sit back with the momentum that these days, during Seun and Die Land, during Egoli, that momentum that I created for myself.
Well, actually, back in those days of Egoli, I didn't even know you were a musical performer. I didn't hear your music because it didn't really make its way out of South Africa back then. But you perform in English as well. So I want to ask you about a couple songs, which I found very powerful songs. And the videos that go along with them were just amazing. The first one I want to ask you about was Pa and Son with Boek van Blerk. That song was very moving for me, and I still love that. The melody, the lyrics. What was the motivation, or what was the inspiration for that song? Was it about someone, or you're just singing about the loss, father losing a child?
Yeah, it is that. I didn't write that. Johan Foster wrote that, brilliant songwriter. Also involved, I think, also involved with the De La Rey song of Boek van Blerk. Boek and I didn't at that stage have a lot of moments, songs that we could choose to share, and then it came along, which was Pa and Seun, and I was extremely glad when they contacted me. Me being the older singer as well, could play the Pa role, and you could play the Seun. So translated, that means father and son, and it's a song of, the video rips your heart out. It's our worst nightmare as a father or a parent, is to have your child run across the road and get hit by a car. So it's about burying your child, burying your child long before your demise. As they say, no parent should ever bury their own children. That song is about that. And Boek became known for songs that really rip your heart out. That song, very sentimental, but it does rip your heart out, and it's really every father's biggest fear. It became a very big hit for us.
No, absolutely. It's incredibly powerful. That's why I wanted to ask you about this song. And honestly, it's one of my favorite songs you've ever performed. Of course, I'm a huge Boek van Blerk fan as well. But that was brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. The most interesting thing is that I have the song on backtrack handy if it should happen that I run into Boek. But my son is a singer himself, and he's recorded 2 or 3 CDs. And twice, 3 times a month sometimes, our paths cross, our touring paths cross somewhere on stage, and we always do that song. And I dare you, do that song with your own son on stage. Look in his eyes, and you sing to him and he says, I will always be your son, and I sing to him, and I will always be your father. That's a tough song to sing, man. And like I said, doing it with your own son just puts it in another level.
Absolutely powerful. No, it's still. I mean, when I first watch it. I mean, and I'm not a first language Afrikaans speaker. It's like my fourth language, so I speak 6 languages. But it was and 3 of them are African. Oh, there's the old racist. He speaks 3 African languages.
That's incredible. That is incredible. That's really incredible.
Well,
I find most Americans very monolingual, speaking only one language, and then some of them do a bit of Spanish, I suppose. But apart from that, Americans don't do many languages. And here you come and tell me you speak African language. I can't even do that.
Well, there's it's a misnomer. America has 330 million legal people. We have others, but we have 330 million legal people here, and who are citizens and green card holders. But of that, we have about 80 million people that speak a second language. That's what's lost on people. That's bigger than all of South Africa. Yeah. But it's just not a common thing. Not everybody does it. So and everything is done in English. We don't do broadcasts and other things. Although they're trying to force us to learn Spanish now, and I refuse.
Of course. But you are an immigration destination, so you had people come from foreign countries with foreign languages, and they acquire English if they are good immigrants, and then they'll probably master 2 languages. Yeah.
So I get that. Choco Gamer sent a 35 Rand super chat, and he said, "Sending my respect to Steve with an exclamation point. Keep Afrikaans alive with another exclamation point." Good there.
Thank you, sir. That is the plan. That is the plan.
And Mark Trudgeon just became a member of my channel. Thank you for that. If you're watching Morton wants to be member 100. You're running out of time. That's 97, so you better pay attention. And then the Flying Boar he said a question for Steve about Sia Khaleesi, the BLM comments. Let's hold that one, okay, Steve, because we're going to get to that in just a little bit, but I want to go through some more stuff about your career. Okay, so let me get to some of the questions and chats that people have had here. I've been pulling them out selectively as I go along. So this one was from Rajald. Rajald said, please ask Steve if the political interest that you have comes from your grandfather. Now, before you answer that, Steve, I'm going to guess your political interest is driven by your life experiences. Maybe there's influence from your family, but I suspect watching what's happened around you is what's driven you to interest in politics. Am I wrong, or what's the story?
Yeah, it is mostly that. It'll be impossible to live in South Africa and say you're not interested in politics. You know, at least politics is the institution that regulates your taxes. You should be interested in politics. But South Africa, of course, has a very dynamic political floor in which everything played out the last 30, 40 years. That's the one thing. I do come from a very historic family, also a very political family. Many of the Hofmeyrs, of course, very far left-wing people. And then General Louis Botha, who was probably one of the bravest generals of the Anglo-Boer War. Of course, also seen as the general that surrendered to the British, but some people felt he had to, other people felt he shouldn't have. And then my grandfather, which would be Louis Botha's son-in-law, was of course right on the other side of the political spectrum. He was one of the leaders of the military wing of the Ossewa Brandwacht that's run about the Second World War, when half the Afrikaners said they will not fight for the English, of course running around with a memory of what happened during the Anglo-Boer War. So we've had many divisions in South Africa, not just amongst cultures, but inside cultures. The Afrikaner is a very fragmented culture as well. So we've always had good information and good objective information from left and right, as a Hofmeyr child growing up with 4 other brothers. But we weren't really political animals. In fact, when I voted yes, and even when I visited Nelson Mandela in 2003 or 4, at that stage, I was growing weary of the fruits of this yes vote of mine. Mm-hmm. It wasn't what I thought it would be, but I was still hopeful. Where today, I must tell you, I'm not that hopeful. I'm a bit of a pessimist when it comes to South Africa at the moment, and I'm making some harsh statements every now and then because I really need to shake everybody awake to the fact that these opinions also exist. And when I say something harsh and it upsets you, I need you to know that I come from a small minority and I need to keep the equilibrium going here. And you're always going to hear that from me, even if it's just to keep the balance. I don't have to be right all the time, but I certainly have to be. I cannot leave our place. I cannot lose our place at the table.
No, Steve, I have to agree with you. In fact, there's a series of lectures that Ivy League schools give called the Great Decisions briefings, and they pick topics every year. 2 years ago, I was asked, because I was the director of African Studies at the U.S. Army War College while still serving, I was asked to give one on South Africa. The title was South Africa's Fragile Democracy. So if you watch that video, which is available on YouTube, I speak for about an hour and 40 minutes. They told me it was 2 hours, and then at the top of the hour they said, well, you have to stop. We have to take questions. But I managed to go another half hour or so. But I talk, and in that I talk about South Africa's fragile democracy, and I said I don't like the term of that because South Africa has a lot of sound institutions in civil society and also within the government. But that was 2 years ago. My view has changed dramatically ever since Ramaphosa came to power in the ANC, became the president of the party, and became president of the country. He seems intent on racializing everything, and everything is moving in a direction that's not healthy. So I think that what you're saying is you have to speak up. And I was always a person that said about the ANC for years that the thing about the ANC is about, this is not today, but this is a few years ago, 60% of the, now this is stereotype, but it was a generalization, 60% of the people in the ANC a few years back were committed, multi-party, multiracial, Rainbow Nation, market capital committed people. And 40% were dyed-in-the-wool leftists, kill all the white people, chase people into the sea, nationalize everything, the mines, industry, farms, everything. And as long as that balance stayed 60-40, South Africa could move. It wouldn't move in the direction it needed to, but it would move slowly. But once that balance got tipped, and when Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma nearly took the position from Ramaphosa when they had the party conference, only a handful of votes separated them. I said, okay, the jig's up. It's 50-50 now, and it's going the other direction. And you got more people that want to be radicals than want to have a solution for South Africa. So I think it's important to speak up about it. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on there for a little bit.
Yeah, but you're quite right. That is exactly the situation. I kind of became antagonistic after Jacob Zuma. Before he became president, I went to visit him. I saw a bit of a nationalist there, which is what I needed. I needed someone to understand other nationalists because we have lots of national groups there. Yeah. I saw him once under four eyes, him and myself in his house, and then a little bit later with an Afrikaner group. At that stage, I was still okay with the Rainbow Nation, the reconciliation, the unification. But months within Zuma's rule, we all saw that meant absolutely nothing. And from there onwards, I was probably not a very good South African. I didn't trust Ramaphosa even before he was appointed. I also heard his first speech and I knew that I'm going to make a mistake. And many of my people came to me and said, no, we play golf with this man. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's a very, very good businessman. I don't believe that. I don't believe he's a very good businessman at all. I think he's the first black economic empowerment candidate out there. He got lots of money from people who felt very guilty. And I'm not sure I think he's a bit of a puppet at this stage of the game. I can't say it's going to get better for us, but no, I don't trust him. I don't trust the ANC. The ANC is having a very bad time at the moment. They're not very popular. And for the first time in history, they're not very popular with their own voters. But South Africa, unfortunately, we don't have a very educated voter base. So we are still the country with the most protests. We are the country in the world where the most ANC voters protest the most against the party they will keep in power next time.
Exactly right.
It's just incredible. Just incredible.
No, listen, Steve. I mean, I have to say, I served in the military for 36 years. But if from 1994 to 2012, you handed me $420 million worth of equity from corporations in South Africa as blackmail or whitemail, whatever you want to call it. If you paid me off of $420 million, and if in 26 years I could only turn $420 million into $450 million, I don't think that qualifies me as a smart businessman. I'm just saying.
It certainly does not. If you could not, with all those resources, make a single dent in the unemployment rate, I've got no hope for you. In fact, we've now nosediving to the worst or the least employed people in the world. Ironically, that said, the most unhappy, discomforted black citizens in the world come from the two countries where they are the most comfortable and wealthy on the continent and the most comfortable and wealthy in the world, and that is South Africa and America. This is one of the reasons I'm afraid I can't align with the sentiments of Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that shortly. But Steve, I have a serious question for you here. Now, this is one I've always wanted to ask, because when I first heard your name and I first saw you on television, I always would look you up and I'd have a hard time spelling your name. What was your family so desperately poor that they couldn't afford another vowel? I mean, Meyer is normally spelled M-E-Y-E-R. What is the story there? I mean, what happened to the vowel? I mean, were these guys Deutschland trekkers and they came back because they lost a vowel? What happened there?
That is actually a crossbreed of German and Dutch spelling. They actually don't have a Y, they have a J in there. And sometimes instead of the E, they have an R. But there are Hofmeyrs with two Fs, Hofmeyrs with two Es. But we are the Hofmeyrs without the last vowel, but I don't think anybody has ever spelled that right.
Okay, well, I was just saying, like, listen, Steve, look, I not that you're Ramaphosa comfortable, but I'm sure you've got a few rand in the bank. I think you can afford to add the E back into the surname. I'm just saying, going forward, just something to think about.
At this stage, that'll be a luxury to pay for that. No, as an artist, I'm not going very well at the moment. COVID is wiping us out. We all got caught with our... Listen, I now know for sure that singing and acting are not essential services out there, and the world has shown it for us. In fact, we can't go back to work at all. Yeah. We're really stuck as artists in South Africa. We have special campaigns now saying, geez, don't forget about us. At some stage, the COVID grant, when it was handed out, the aid actually passed white people deliberately. We saw the photographs. People showed us videos of, there comes the truck. We're going to get something. We're going to get some bread. They go right past into the black settlements. But you can imagine our disappointment when 3 weeks ago, we realized that aid didn't go to black people either.
No.
It was siphoned on top. It stayed on top. 500 billion of that rand is gone. Of COVID aid. For me, that is high treason. You should be hanged for that. And then, on top of all that, the International Monetary Fund gives us more aid. That is just incredible. I don't know how to explain this to anybody in the world, but we got more aid after that embarrassment.
Well, it's absolutely incredible. Of course, I've done videos on that too. So it's not just the IMF. The IMF gets the attention, but remember that the Tito Mboweni said, I think it was Mboweni said back before they took any aid back in late February, early March, or it was late March, like, we will not be taking any money from the multilateral institutions. We are a sovereign state. And my advice then was like, okay, hang on, take a breath here. This is a black swan event. You can expect that the world, this is just because I'm an analyst. I worked at Defense Intelligence Agency, National Security Agency. I said, you just have to expect that the World Bank, these multilateral institutions are going to make money almost freely available, and there'll be no conditions. This isn't the structural adjustment policies. And within a week, they had to backtrack because that's exactly what the banks did, exactly what I predicted. And so now the ANC, who has destroyed the country and driven your credit ratings into the junk bond era. So the best money you can buy, the best rate you could possibly get as a government of South Africa is 7%, which is generous. It should be like 13%, but they can get 7%. This money from the IMF comes at 1.1%, which is less than inflation after you pay it back. It's a gift. And guess what, Steve? No one's ever going to have to repay those loans back. I guarantee they'll all be wiped off the books. So yeah.
I am dead sure. Our analyst, R.W. Johnson, quite an international renowned journalist when it comes to South African politics, he's been warning about the IMF loan for a very, very long time. And I wonder what he's saying, because now it's come here, but it's exactly as you explained. It's going to be a kind of a loan. Nobody's going to ask it back, and it's not going to come back. No, they're not going to get it back. And it'll be all over. In fact, nobody will talk about it again.
And of course, South Africans are all up in arms and excited or talking about the $4.3 billion from the IMF, but that's not all. The new development bank, the BRICS Bank, of which South Africa is a member of it, last month in June gave $1 billion. And then the African Development Bank on the 22nd of July gave another $288 million. So that's $5.5 billion just dumped in the lap of people that we can't trust to deliver textbooks to schools in the Eastern Cape.
Incredible. And the VBS Bank took all their money and gave it to the EFF.
Oh, the VBS Bank.
That is just incredible. You can't explain South Africa to anybody. I travel the entire world, not as an international act, as a South African, because all my people have fled out of the country, and there are no such big communities on other continents that I can just tour the entire year and see South Africans in all countries. Unless they're following the South African condition here, when I tell them this, when I tell locals and other people from other countries this, nobody believes it. When I go to Europe and say we have a far murder rate of this and this statistic, they just go, that is impossible. Not in the modern era can this be happening. Listen, if you think it's not happening, it's happening in South Africa.
Well, I tell you, George Orwell, his novels look quite tame and rather understated. 1984, An Animal Farm. I mean, when you look at what's happening in South Africa and even some of the nonsense happening in jurisdictions here in the United States, it's like, you can't make this stuff up. Even George Orwell could make this stuff up. It's just insane.
Yeah, it's incredible. Incredible how fiction became fact. Fact feeds fiction is incredible.
So here's a question from these are a while back, Steve, because we've been at this for a bit. We're really getting the conversation. But Carrie von Skalvik said earlier, she said, would Steve ever consider starting his own political party?
I've made the math, and I think that'll be crazy to do.
Yeah.
Firstly, I'm enjoying a lot of freedom at the moment. I have a lot of liberty to say exactly what I want. I don't speak on behalf of anybody, and everybody says, yeah, but who chose you to speak? Nobody chose me to speak. I speak on behalf of my mom and us. There we go. I'm just very lucky that I have such a huge following that I can safely say that we probably agree. I think that's the one thing. The other math I did make is that we are just not ready for a party with black and white people that like each other. We're quite not there. We still divided into racial lines, even if we don't admit it, the political parties. And if I could rely on, let's say, all the Afrikaners, which I can't, we still will be a party smaller than EFF, and I have to keep quiet on the backbenches of Parliament while Julius Malema does that pathetic little dance in front there. And I probably can't. I don't have the temper control for that. If I got all the white people in South Africa to vote for me, it would still be a minority party. If I got half of the white people, which I won't get, and some of the black people, we still won't be. I must tell you that it looks like a lose-lose situation for someone who wants to win all the time. I want to win. I don't know if there are many other ways out of this. I don't know if there are many other ways to solve it. I'm relying on the fact that things will change eventually and get better. For a person like me to step up and say, listen, I want to start a party with people of common sense. And I don't care what color or creed you are. If you think common sense and this country needs to be saved, will you stand behind me? And I don't care what nationality and what religion you enter there, you will be welcome, but mine will be safe and yours will be safe. That's the kind of South Africa I voted for in 1992 and 94, by the way. But of course, it never materialized.
Yeah, I think a lot of people voted for that sort of South African. It's been a little buyer's remorse, I think, is going on these days with some people. Yep. So,
exactly.
So folks, listen, you're listening to Chris White Africa on the Indaba Africa channel here on YouTube. I'm in Central Pennsylvania live with my special feature guest today, the one, the only, the legendary Yeasan legend, Steve Hofmyer. So he's my guest here today. Thanks, Steve.
Listen, when people called me that before I was 50, I would just deny it. But now that I'm 50, I'm just going to take all that.
No.
That sounds very good. Thank you very much. I love it.
I agree with you. I think no one should be a legend before the age of 50. Since I've crossed that threshold now, I'll be happy to be called a legend too. But
please, you are fantastic. Thank you. I love it. Hey, I've just been a very busy boy, and I think that's the thing. I wouldn't mind if people judge me when I'm gone. Until then, I'm going to be a very busy boy. I'm absolutely inspired by life. I'm still an artist, basically. Primarily, I'm still an artist, and world and people and love inspire me. And I want to sing about it. I want to write about it. And when I get very upset about my people and what's happening to them, and I think it's an injustice, I'm going to be the one screaming about it. Other people did it long before me during apartheid, and even before then. I'm going to be the guy doing it now.
Now, Steve, there's two things we definitely want to get to during the stream that we haven't got to yet. And one, we're going to talk about the discrimination video you did, both in Afrikaans and English. We're going to come to that shortly. And then you did bring guitar, so I might be able to twist your arm into performing something.
Yeah, it's lying.
Yeah. We'll get to that in a little bit here, but can you stay a bit longer? I mean, because we're at 1 hour now. I mean, are you okay to stay a while longer? I know your concert schedule's so full. What with lockdown, you're performing everywhere.
I'm in so much trouble. I can sit here for a week and talk to you.
Well, let me run through some of the comments from the people putting. A couple of them are cheeky, some are fun. So Kerry von Skalvik said that Akta El Kaman was compulsory viewing like Dallas used to be. I think that's an accurate statement. Everybody watched it.
That is a very accurate. It was our Dallas, basically.
Yeah, and then what was this? Oh, this is from who wrote this? Oh, Yanni wrote this. He was being cheeky. As a professional actor, Steve, how would you rate South African politicians acting?
Well, obviously they're fooling so many people. They must be quite good, if you ask me. On second thoughts, you know.
Yeah, they're all in for Academy Awards. It's quite impressive performance there.
Incredible.
And then Erica, who's one of my moderators and a longtime, big-time supporter of this. By the way, Erica grew up in Katanga. Belgian parents, and her family knew Moses Chombe, and her family got out on the last possible exit out of there before things went to crap. Because So she's
okay, wonderful. That's quite a story.
And she was a dairy farmer in South Africa. Also, one of these people that suffered one of these violent farm attacks. She survived it, fortunately, though. But Erica is one of my moderators. So she has a question for you. She says,
"Hi, Erica.
Looking at there you go, Erica. There's a shout out from Steve. How's that? I interrupted it, but. Looking at what's happening in South Africa now, how does Steve feel about his time served in the army for his land, for his country? That's a fair question.
Yeah, it is a fair question. I think people want the answer to be that I felt that it was all in vain, but I'm extremely proud to say that we were the last country, the last tribe on this continent to work so actively at keeping communism at bay. We did lose a lot of people doing that. I hate to be the "I told you so" guy, but you know, we thought we were over all that. The army served its purpose. Both armies on both sides served their purpose. We could carry on now with a modern society and make South Africa great. We have incredible South Africans. Can I just tell you that? We still get along, actually, predominantly black and white people. We have no choice on the street. But I'm sad to say that much of the division comes from the top. Somehow the parties benefit from keeping us at loggerheads with each other all the time. So yeah, it's a great question, but there's a lot of stuff that I learned from that. You know, I told you earlier on, I went from army to drama school, and you'd think that's a bit of a jump. But I must tell you, the one thing I did take with me to drama school, and another thing that drama school told me in order to succeed, was what I told you firsthand: discipline. You could have no talent in the world. With good discipline, someone is going to employ you and keep you around. And the two things I took from army then and into my life, and from drama school into my life, was the discipline. Today, I think a lot of people in South Africa, a lot of kids in South Africa, can do with a bit of military service. I think it'll do them very well. I can't speak up for the army at the moment. The SANDF sometimes looks like a very vague shadow of their former self. And I'm not sure if we do have a very good army, but it seems like we're keeping them busy with civil war activities. I'll put those in parentheses for now.
Well, I can comment extensively on the South African National Defense Force, but that's not what this stream is about. So we'll save that for people can watch my videos.
I'd like to listen to that.
Absolutely. Maybe I'll do one soon on that. So let me just catch up on some things real quick, Steve, because a lot of people are being very generous with Super Chats. Lizette Jordan became a member, a recruit team member. Thank you for that. Morton, you're running out of time. I think we're at 98, 80 members now. There's Morton. In fact, let me do a courtesy real quick, Steve, because Morton is a dedicated member of the channel, and I don't want to leave him short. I want to check real quick and see how many members to see if he gets a chance to be the 100th member, because that's important to him, Morton,
Absolutely.
for some reason. So yeah. I'm just looking right now. Right now, Morton, 98 members. So, Morton, 98 members. So you're 2 members away. So hang in there. Anyway, so.
Well done. Well done. That's what it's about, man.
So, well, no, I just started. Listen, Steve, I didn't intend to monetize. This channel was started just to be kind of something to support my strategic consultancy on Africa. So I was just going to do, anytime I did a speech or presentation, just kind of make a link to it. And then lockdown happened, and then I lost about a lot of money in consultants gigs in April and May. So people kept asking me, I started making videos about Africa, and people started asking me, why don't you monetize the channel? And I was putting it off, and then people were like, when can we become members? When we become members? I'm like, why do you want to be a member? And I started looking around, and I started to understand it, and then I monetized it. And so membership's only been available for about 6 weeks, and we got 100 already. It's pretty cool.
No, it's incredible. There's not a lot of positive things we can take from COVID, but every now and then something does pop up, and this kind of independence that we are concentrating on now and focus on, I think it's a good thing. You know, we've had to think on our feet as well. We do an online concert every month or so. I see the other artists try that as well. It doesn't substitute the salaries we're used to, but it seems like it's going to be a new future, and this is going to be our learning school. So thanks to the virus for a couple of things. All in all, I'm not a great friend of viruses.
Well, I think that DHL, UPS, and Amazon love the virus. It's made them incredibly wealthy.
Because the other shops are standing closed. Yeah,
exactly. Well, you can't buy open-toed shoes in South Africa because everyone knows COVID comes from your big toe. Anyway.
True. Very true.
Yeah, God forbid you buy open-toed shoes. But anyway, Lizette Jordan gave a stripper chat. I'm not going to do a stripper dance for you, Lizette. That's as close as you'll get right there for now, because I'm not going to embarrass myself in front of my guests. Let me catch up here. So Daniel gave a super chat, Australian super chat, 799, says, young, white, unfortunately this matters in South Africa, South Africans have better prospects overseas. What is your perspective on this, move or not? That's an interesting one. I'm opposed to it, but I don't encourage anybody to leave South Africa, but I don't fault them if they do. What's your take on it, Steve?
Yeah, no, I'm the same. As a younger singer abroad, I would go on stages in Australia, New Zealand, and Dubai, and London, and say, listen, you South Africans, we need you back because we're building the country. After about the 5th or 6th concert, an old man came backstage and said, Mr. Hofmeyr, may I ask you something? And I said, yes. And he said, would you please never do that again? Mm-hmm. Half your audience in South Africa, half your audience here tonight, when they were in South Africa, woke up on the kitchen floor with an R4 stuck up their neck. Mm-hmm. Don't ever say that again. Most of us didn't want to move. We love our country. We'd go back there anytime, but it just doesn't feel like our country anymore. So I've stopped recruiting people to come back to South Africa. I think it's a very difficult decision. I've had many friends and colleagues try it out. It doesn't happen easily. To start, especially at an older age, to start again is almost impossible. So I say adieu and good luck, and don't forget us. Now that you've become citizens there, you have mayors that are dying for your opinion. You have senators that are dying to hear your opinion. Why don't you go tell them that you have people in South Africa? And I think some of the success we've had overseas has been because our immigrants from South Africa have been very good citizens in other countries, and it seems they are heard over there.
Absolutely. Robin gave a 70 Rand super chat saying, great chat. Robin's one of my moderators. She's a great supporter of the channel as well. Mark Trudgeon gave €5 super chat for rent just to break the seriousness. Well, thank you for that. I thought I broke the seriousness when I encouraged Steve to spend a little bit of his money to buy an extra vowel for that surname. Anyway.
That That was very good. Come on.
And then Maliti De Beer did a Super Ran 35, just a stripper chat, just offered it. Thank you so much for that, Maliti. And I've catch up on a few more here. Chocolate Gamer said, please compliment Steve's shirt. I wasn't expecting that.
Oh,
the Afrikaans rock star. Remember, keep Afrikaans alive.
Yeah, it's good. It's comfortable.
Yeah, I was going to say, it kind of reminds, it's not a Hawaiian shirt, but it kind of puts me in mind of a Hawaiian or a Cuban shirt, just kind of, relaxing in the weather.
It's got those colors. It's actually quite a warm day down here. I'm not known for for my wardrobe. I must warn you on that. I'm a real old rocker. I arrive with a denim and a t-shirt and take the guitar, put on the country hat and go on stage. So I don't have a huge ritual before I go on stage, and wardrobe is the least of it.
All right, before I ask my next question about Die Land, because I want to ask you about that song. That's an incredibly powerful song as well. And what I like about that is a lot of the Afrikaans is so close to German. It's like, I don't even have to speak Afrikaans to get it. Like, Die Land behoort aan jou. That means Die Land gehört. It's the same thing.
Yeah,
anyway, yeah, very similar.
This country belongs
to you. Yeah, exactly. Before we get to that song, someone asked earlier about what sort of genre music do you like? I mean, sometimes musicians perform certain types, and it may not be their favorite, but it's what sells. It's what gets them known. Do you have a particular? I know you sing country music. Do you have a favorite genre?
Yeah, it has to be rock and country. I don't think there's really a genre called Afrikaans music, but it certainly is Euro-popish most of the time. There's a lot of folk music in Afrikaans. It's just the language, of course, that differs. But we are sentimental people, so we will like our country music. I grew up with country music. I do have a heavy metal side here. I always wanted to be in a heavy metal band. That's the long hair when I was younger, and the flag and the mic stand. But as a baritone, there wasn't a lot of place. I was hardly Steve Perry. So I fell back on the things. Absolutely. I fell back on the songs that I could do. I was better with a Neil Diamond sounding baritone voice than rocking. I still like listening to rock. I'm probably not as good at doing it anymore. But country music comes quite natural to me.
Listen, there's nothing wrong with Neil Diamond. I'll tell you what. Thank God for Neil Diamond, because at rugby at Sevens, when they play his song, man, that is the whole stadium just rocking.
Oh man, that's just the thing. Yeah. I still do my tributes to him. I haven't done them for a long time, but when I do them, they're very popular. Nobody knows it, but of my 32 CDs I released, my second best-selling one was my tribute to Neil Diamond. It's incredible.
Wow. Well, that might be because overseas stuff. Speaking of which, one of the reasons why I want to get you on the channel is that about a quarter of my audience is most of my audience is actually in South Africa, but a quarter of my audience is abroad, including the U.S., U.K., Australia, and not simply South African expats. I mean, I've got all kinds of folks who are on this channel, and so I want to get some more exposure. People know them about Steve Hofmyer. Now, let me ask you about Die Land. This is the song you sang with Bobby van Jaarsveld, Bok van Blerk, Jay from Jay and Liani May, and then I don't know if he likes to be known that way, but that's how I know him, Jay and Liani May. And then Ruan, then Ruan du Toit. Ruan has a very unique voice. Bok has a unique voice. You have a unique voice. But you guys, I don't know how you guys wrote this thing or who wrote it or who did this. Okay, look, I don't mean to sound like a fanboy, Steve, but this song is powerful. It's brilliant. The video is excellent. Just the way that you guys are sitting there and how it's amazing. Tell me about the song.
Yeah, I didn't write the song. We have a very professional songwriter who could understand the situation to verbalize that kind of song. What we needed was a patriotic song that had no political baggage. It's almost impossible to get songs like that now. I must warn you that the other artists would probably not have done any other song. They're not politically minded artists. I don't hold that against anybody, of course. The fact that they kept me in the song, I'm quite grateful for, because when I heard it, I went, this is just incredible. It's a song I'm envious. I wish I could write a song like that. We got the other guys. They're probably the 3-4 most prominent singers in male singers in Afrikaans, and we sat and we recorded that. Came out nicely. We were all in the same key. Very different artists, as you've mentioned there. The song became a huge hit. Immediately became controversial because there were five white boys singing it. Where's the black guy? But of course, it's a song from a very specific culture, a very specific language. It shouldn't be strange to have 5 white boys singing about it. It's a very non-racist song. It's a very proudly cultural song. And like I said, it comes with no baggage. So it became a massive hit. Here and there was problems at one of the festivals when it won Song of the Year. They decided to boycott the song and to boycott the category because I was one of the singers. I am the one who is the controversial political voice in it. Of course, that was the first time that music really got boycotted in the new South Africa. We thought we moved away from that 30 years, 3 decades away from banishing songs because of political baggage, because the song has no political baggage. That, of course, made the hit. That just catapulted the song into one of the biggest hits I've ever had. I know on one of the playlists at the moment, I think on which one is it? Spotify.
Yes.
My most streamed song at the moment is actually Amanda, the Don Williams Amanda.
Yeah.
But the second most streamed song of mine is Die Land, and the third one is Pompoen, which has been my hit for 20 years. So it just gives you an indication of how big that hit is.
No, it's an amazing song. Absolutely love it. So that song, though, I mean, seriously, I mean, it's the cinematography of the video is just brilliant. The lyrics, I mean, I'm not an expert on music. I'm just a consumer, and I spend plenty of money on music. That song just spot on. I mean, it's just so, the melody is anyway. So I'm starting to sound like a fanboy.
Yeah.
So I'll stop there. Starting to sound like a fanboy.
No, but do listen to the song if you want to, and if you don't know much about South Africa, you'll see this typifies the kind of song that is huge in the Afrikaans market. Do notice how good the production is. We may not be good at many other things, but our musical productions in South Africa is just incredible compared to countries that are more tech savvy than us, let's say in Europe, for the same genre, I should add. But it's a very powerful song. Yeah, it's a beautiful song to get. Die Land, Dieland.
Yep. No, when you talk about the musical production, the video is just fantastic. I mean, all of them, man. It doesn't matter. I mean, who does it? I'm a big fan of Franje du Plessis from Namibia, and the things. It's really what's the word I'm looking for? Minimalist, what they use for her videos, but it's awesome. I mean, she sits in a falling apart house, and just the way they do it.
Yeah.
Now, it probably doesn't hurt that she's really hot looking, but I mean, no, the music's great.
I was going to say it does help that she's drop dead gorgeous.
Yeah.
She doesn't need a lot of other things. You know, I've got to hide behind young people acting in my video, and pumpkins and trains.
Wear a cowboy hat and
yeah, hide. It's tough to get old, man.
It's too funny. All right, Steve, let me get a couple more of these super chats, and I want to shift ground again real quick, okay? Sorry, I'm laughing now. That's good. There's a couple more super chats that came in. I don't want to miss them here. If I missed any, I apologize. But Kolasang Litotsane said, Dumela Chris, great chat. Dumela Kolasang, what's the Hilijang? So then Karen said, we're trying to recover Karen's name because it's been appropriated by all these lunatic, whiny little snowflakes. so
I know.
I'm on a campaign to save her name. So I told her
Karen,
we could just stop saying it in the Afrikaans pronunciation and call you Karen, but that doesn't work because we call it the same thing on this side, Karen. So
same thing here. Yeah.
But she says, Steve, how has this lockdown benefit you in terms of having more family time? Life is so busy, passes us by so quickly. That's a really good question.
That's a beautiful question. In fact, that's probably one of the benefits. I've never spent this much time with my daughter. I'm an old father. I've got a 3-year-old running around. You probably have heard her scream. I must say it's been wonderful. There is a problem, of course, that she will get used to being at home. And let's say this thing blows over and you start touring again. It may not be a comfortable thing. But for me, I love being at home. I'm older now. I don't need to party. I don't need to socialize. In fact, I've become probably the person deep inside I always was, and that's a person who sits with a book, and I like studying and reading, and I like life, and I like the eyes of my daughter. I like taking her on the beach and walking. I'd cancel a tour if I can kick ball with my little baby in the park. So I've become that person. I've become a bit of a grandfather, I suppose. Ironically, I have 6 children, and not one of them has made me a grandfather. I made my mother a grandma before she was 40. So God's been good to me at this stage of the game.
I'm sure your mother was really grateful for that, to be called a grandmother under 40, but anyway.
No, she was not at all. But I'm just saying that, I'm an older father, and that, apart from COVID, that already, there's just a different thing to an older father. You just see a small life, and you start seeing how it's going to project and where it's going to go. And this little habit this 3-year-old has now is going to turn into that when she's 30, turn into that when she's 40. You just have a wider view, spectrum, I suppose, of children, family, kids. Of course, I had to mess up a marriage to get this right. I had to be a bad father to some of the children to get this right, but I think I'm getting it right now.
Cool beans. So Reese van der Valk gave a super chat of 140 Rand. Reese is a big fan of the program, a big friend of the program, and her husband's a massive help. He actually helped me get this set up last night. We did a test session to make sure we got it right for your stream. But your sound is brilliant and your lighting is good. The picture is I think you've got it. Awesome. So she said Steve did a show in Richards Bay that was the first show she ever attended, and it was the best show best ever Steve She says, Steve does Neil Diamond absolute the best. Love it. So share that with you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I still enjoy doing that. In fact, my last online concert a week ago was 17 Neil Diamond songs, just two guys, two guitars, acoustically, and Neil Diamond songs work so well doing just that.
And Olaf became a recruit team member. I think Olaf was there before. Maybe I scared Olaf away. I don't know. And he came back. I get Steve Hofmyer on the channel more often. But and Morton Christie, I think you got number 100, my friend. He was waiting for number 100.
Ah, right.
So well it's not like Springbok number 100 or 673, but it is a number.
Is there a prize?
No.
All right.
Okay. And Anne-Marie Forster also became a member right after that. Thank you, Anne-Marie. Really appreciate that. And then Lynn, who grew up in Rhodesia and came to South Africa as a small child. Lynn started a channel called X Roadies, which I'm helping her with. And she says, Steve, thanks for being you. Awesome stream, Chris.
Thank you very much. Well, lots of friends from up north. Love them.
And Mark Trudgeon gave a €2 super chat. Said, welcome to the grandfatherless club myself.
Serious?
And then Karen has come back again. She says, I understand the grandparent thing. You have beautiful little girls. Thank you, Chris for save my name. Love you guys. Okay, that's pretty cool of her. Okay, so
fantastic.
Steve, let me change to something else here. Now, I was able to watch this because I've been in South Africa for a bit. I didn't know when this came out, but I found it on YouTube. Fortunately, I was able to watch it. But now I'm going to mispronounce and butcher the word because it's in Afrikaans, and you guys pronounce things anyway. But in German, it would be Treurgrond. But you did this movie about the farm situation of farm murders. That was interesting. I found, to be honest, I found a little wanting at the end, but I think maybe because of the graphicness of it was probably toned down a bit. Not that I was looking for graphicness, but what was this project about? How did you get involved in this, and what did you think of the movie?
Yeah, Treurgrond is basically the soil of woes, if it's translated. I had to 10 years after I started this campaign of farm murders, and I wasn't the only guy. There were lots of campaigns going because somebody was doing the math and something was wrong with a disproportionate amount of commercial farmers that were killed. Of course, at this stage in South Africa, the commercial farmer is a almost exclusively black on white epidemic when it comes to the murder rate. That's why it was easy for me to make the BLM video, because there's something wrong here if you claim victimhood, but in this case, it's that kind of murder. Now you know why it is ignored. Now you know it's why it's denied by the president. There were lots of ways of getting a word out to the world, but it seems that the world doesn't care anymore. The world cared about South Africa's internal affairs back in the 50s and 60s, but it seems the world have their own apartheid problems at the moment. The world is asking questions like, how high should the fence be? How long should I keep the gate open? How many people should we invite in? How many people should leave? The world has their own problems at the moment, which I understand. One of the ways was speeches all over the world, also the Union, the European Parliament, and the other way was making a movie about it. Very touchy subject. It's not easy to make a movie. When you see the movie, you'll say, come on what murder was that? And my answer to that is, you mean which one of the 2,500 murders, or almost 3,000 murders, depending on what stat you use, would you like to see? Because this is happening to us now almost every 6 days. Every 6 days for 30 years, this is happening to us. 3 attacks per day. How can you not make a movie about that? And as being an artist, one of the primary callings of an artist is to tell the stories of your time, sing about the stories of your time, make the videos if you have to about the story of your time. And Treurgrond was that movie. I tell you, it was a very difficult movie to make. It's easy to theoretically go out there and say, listen, I'm fighting for farmers out there because they are dying. Mm-hmm. When you climb in their shoes and they spray you with blood, and they are following pictures from passages in houses where the blood lies there like it's tiled, like it's a river coming through of people bleeding. Now I have to act that role. I tell you, it was a spiritual experience. It ripped my heart out. Of course, it inspired me, to emphasize and go out there and underline it more and more than ever. I will never stop. It's the one campaign I want to go away as quickly as possible. You can't make money from it. You do it because somebody's got to hear what's happening in the modern era in this little country called South Africa to our farmers.
Over the years, I've written a lot about this, some of which, of course, I can't share because I work for intelligence agencies, and so people can't know about that. But in the public sphere, I've written about and talked about the rural, I call it a rural insecurity rather than simply farm murders or plasmod, because it's all over rural areas. I mean, rural South Africa is basically defenseless with the disbandment of the 178 commando units, which provided some degree of security and augmented the police in a reserve role. It made a major difference, particularly with drug seizures, but also with farm security. But with the withdrawal of that, the underfunding, the mismanagement, and the misallocation of SAPs across the country, the fact that for a country of 58 million people, you have 160,000 or 175,000 worth of police, of which 130,000 are actually cops. Of the 130,000, at any given time, you might have 35,000 working a beat around the country of 58 million people. The size of that, it's a joke. It's that New York City has 40,000. Well, before this nonsense, had 40,000 cops, the largest police force in the world, and they had a budget of $9 billion, which all of which is massive. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. No, we have none of that.
No, so I've been talking about this. Go ahead.
Yeah. Just to say accurately, yes, South Africa has a murder rate problem. We are the rape and murder. You got to mention them together.
Yes.
The rape and murder capital of the world. I don't think we are the murder capital of the world solely. I think there are countries with a higher murder rate. When you put the murder and rape together, we are by far the murder and rape capital of the world, and that affects the workers, of course, the farmers as well. But if you take the farmers solely by themselves, the ones that are 90% of them are my people,
right?
White Western people who have made a science of farming in Africa, and it's not easy to farm in Africa. At the rate that they are killed, it's just incredible. If I have to err on the conservative side, I would say about 90 to 100 out of 100,000 murders per year. That's unheard of.
Yeah.
That is 3 times the South African murder rate, which is already 6 times your murder rate, or Europe's murder rate, or countries in Europe. You can't explain this. It's just incredible, and it doesn't seem to be a problem. What seems to be a problem is black people marching for salaries. Nothing else seems to be a problem. When for me, I won't start a campaign because I think everything is contextual and we have problems. But the moment people start dying and bleeding, and the moment they are women and children, I start a campaign. This is not going to go through. This is not how modern civilization should be working. But of course, I'm overestimating my country when I call it a civilization at this time. We have a lot of animals running around here killing humans. It must stop. And I want my campaign to end because that stat is taken care of by my government. My government's denying that there's a problem.
No, it's absolutely. That's why I titled my video, which, by the way, I don't know if YouTube plays games with it or not, but it had 8,000 views within 8 hours, and then it got to 12,000 a day, and then it stopped. Videos don't die that quickly, but when I called it, there are no farm murders in South Africa. Of course, I was quoting President Cyril Ramaphosa from his Bloomberg interview. That's what I use for it when I talk about this. But what disturbs me about this is, aside from the commandos and the SAPs and all this stuff, is that it's always used by ANC and EFF politicians to, well, it's not a big deal because it's white people. It's white people. Yeah. But it happens to lots of people too, not just the white farmers. But for instance, 2 weeks ago, the 26-year-old Indian woman on the Ayub farm near Veenen, she has an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old kid in the room with her. They drag her into the bathroom and then they slice her throat like she's in an abattoir, like she's a piece of beef, and leave her to bleed to death.
Unbelievable.
4 months pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just before,
I don't know.
Just before that, Edward Neumeister, an Austrian immigrant to South Africa, been there for 4 decades, 67 years old. He has a German-themed restaurant in KZN, and of course it's closed because of lockdown. And a guy comes out ostensibly, supposedly to rob them, and then he attacks him with a panga, 67-year-old man, and he chops him up so badly he's bleeding profusely. The guy goes back in the kitchen to try to rob and attack his partner. And the 67-year-old who's mortally wounded staggers back in long enough to get the guy's attention. And then she flees and escapes with her life. But they beat him so badly that his family could not recognize his remains with a panga. That is just unbelievable. What leads to that kind of thought about human life? It's just, anyway, we don't need to get into it, but it's disturbing.
Yeah,
it really
is depressing.
It is very disturbing.
It's very depressing.
Yeah.
It is a reality. And as long as people know that when they're listening now, it is actually a reality. It's actually happening there. And no, I can't rely on you guys to do anything about it, but it's just awful to have to be in the middle of it.
So let's switch to something back to a little happier moment there, Steve. Thanks for the background of the movie, because I appreciate. Yeah, we want to get away from that. But Penny Williams sent a super chat, 70 Rand. She said, "Steve sang Wild Horses at the Stagecoach in Weirda Park, Centurion. Once upon a time." Steve, do not give away our ages. That's what she said.
That is so accurate. It's amazing. I remember the song, of course, very well, but I do remember that specific little venue, and the owners of those venues later on became partners of mine. Here in South Africa, business partners. They have moved on to New Zealand since. We are still friends. That takes me back really 30 years.
Shh, you weren't supposed to say that. Come on, man. Steve, you're going to cost me subscribers, man. Don't be doing that. I was hoping to
You
attract.
grew the beard, by the way.
Oh yeah, so yeah, I did grow the beard. Listen, hey, the beard. I don't know if you've seen photos of me without my beard because I do look much younger. Actually, I've always looked younger than my age, even with the gray hair now. But when I started growing this beard, people started asking about it, and so I did kind of it was raised on Ronaldo host program because I called in one time about something. People were like, should the Colonel get rid of the beard? Should he keep it? It was about 50-50. So I mentioned on my channel, and it's like 75% are like, keep the beard, keep the beard. So people
because it's a good beard. That's a good.
Oh, you
my
like
beard
it?
doesn't grow like that. I like it as well. Yeah, no, it's manly, it's strong, and
I like
I like it.
I like the dark highlights. It shows there's still some color there, but
Yeah, absolutely. No, I like it. I shaved off mine 2 days ago. In fact, I had my daughter shave off my beard.
the 3-year-old.
Yep.
Oh wow.
Yep.
All right, so
I gave her the scissors and said, "Go ahead, let's get rid of this beard."
and you survived it. That's impressive. But Sean von Staden said, "Steve, make a Lions rugby song, please." Sean, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, why the hell would I want to do that?
Exactly. And the
Or a
Brewers.
Sharks rugby song or a Stormers rugby song. It's not going to happen.
Okay, well, hang on a second, Steve. Hang on. So remember, I told you I wore the shirt out of respect for my guest, but we're going to have to hold this one up. Okay, so.
Buddy, that's
just so you know,
that is an eyesore.
Look at
Can
that.
we speak about farm murders again, please?
Look at that.
Oh,
See
there
that?
it says white in the back. Yeah, very good.
There you go.
Number 11.
Yeah. So it's a little known secret. I don't know if you know this, Steve, but I was actually in line to play for the Bucks in the 2019 Rugby World Cup on the left wing. But unfortunately, they chose Makazole Mpipi over me. I don't know why, but he did all right. So it was the right call.
He did all right. He was damn well brilliant.
No, it was.
I'm glad they made that.
No,
You'll get your chance.
But the Bruce sent a super chat, says, Steve, if you step and be the leader, we all know you are. I'll stand with you. Hashtag stand with Steve. Oh, that's kind of nice. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much. I must say I have not said no yet. I haven't said no to a political career. At this stage, politics is a hobby of mine, and I take it very seriously. Party politics is the thing I'm avoiding, but let's look at the future.
Or a little bit ago, Doc Breaker. Isn't that like the coolest name, Doc Breaker? I always think like he's a vampire. He's going to go hide now, Doc Breaker. But
Doc Breaker.
Yeah, he said Steve Springsteen Diamond Hofmeyr. That's what he called you.
I love that. Yeah, I love all of those. The rocker at heart is a bit of a Springsteen. Vocally, I'm limited to Neil Diamond, and that is not a problem at all because I love his songs and his songwriting. Don't never forget Neil Diamond's songwriting is just incredible. But I'm a Christopherson fan. You know?
Yeah.
Slow country stuff. That's the country I grew up with. Yeah, so I love all those. Thank you very much. I see it as a compliment.
And then Winnie Vandermove said that she loves a Blue Bulls jersey that I'm wearing.
Man, I love it as well. It's damn well beautiful.
Yeah, and this one's the one with the horn, and the bull is actually on the side of the jersey when you come up, so it's pretty cool. Did you see that?
I love it.
So there's the horn.
No, please.
And where's the eye? Yeah, it's right down. Here's the eye.
That's right.
And
that's the eye. That's the horn.
There's the other eye.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
It's pretty cool. All right.
All we need now is a victory. We need a cup, like a curry cup or something, man. We haven't had good seasons.
Mark Trudgeon just gave another €5 super chat. Steve, you have a new fan. There you go. I assume he's talking. I assume he's talking about Mark and not about me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I hope that everybody listening will, at some stage, just go Google my name if you can, without the last vowel, and listen to some of the songs. You know, if you don't like my songs, don't like Afrikaans songs, some of the covers have done extremely well.
But speaking of which, folks, social media links for Steve Hofmyer, all of them are below the video, right down there. Check it out. I've got links to his Steve Hofmyer website, also to his Facebook page, to his Twitter account, and also to his YouTube. His YouTube following is not nearly as big as his Twitter and his other channels, but check it all out. It's there. You guys can get. And so, speaking of music, Steve, before we get to the Black Lives Matter video, I just want to talk about this very quickly. Two things. You also sing in English. You sing country, and you've got this this professional relationship with Demi Lee Moore, and she sings with you, and she sings Amanda and some other things. How did that come about, and how do I fix that so we can get Giselle to be that partner with you in Afrikaans?
I appreciate that. I very seldom do the duets. Not backing Demi Lee would have been a great misfire, because she sounds just incredible, and everybody who listens to her, and I think even Giselle would admit that we've never heard of Voice Love. We don't know where she's been hiding. she's not 20 anymore. She's almost 30. But what an incredible voice. It kind of accidental. I was busy recording the second country CD. I bought out 3 in a row. The second country CD, I had Amanda going. I like Don Williams as Amanda. I like Chris Stapleton's Amanda. But the difference is, of course, the bass and the tenor, who sings very high, even the soprano. So I decided to make my Amanda a bit of both. I would do the low part and I would do the high part when we go kick it up a gear. And of course, I need the girl voice to come in. I had a few voices tested. They were all quite good. They were all strong voices. And then I didn't know that Demi Lee was going to be in for the day. So after I had left, they said, listen, Demi Lee is here. Can we try her on the song? I said, you please do that. Let's hear how it goes. At this stage, it was the third last week of a competition, a television competition that she was in. And she was one of the finalists, one of the last 2-3 finalists. It's called The Contract, Die Contract. And she looked very good, going very well. And so I knew that she could sing. What she did in the song, Amanda, blew my mind. I first heard it on the phone. I drove through to Pretoria, which is 40 minutes drive from where I was. I walked into the studio. She still wasn't there. I just listened to the song and I got ice cold. And I said, I've never heard a version like this of this song, Amanda. Everybody knows Amanda, the Don Williams version. Yep. But when it came out, it was an explosion. Of course, then she went and won that competition as well. Afrikaans hit became #1 hit. Both our CDs went to #1 and #2 in South African in sales, and it stayed there for a considerable amount of time. Very impressed with a very professional girl. We're looking at doing a nice duet show, online show very soon. We'll talk about it still.
No, that's awesome. Actually, I didn't know her music until I saw her duet with you. And by the way, folks, we should let you know. Okay, this is important, Steve, because I know, and a lot of people think people just like to break the rules just to break the rules, But Steve didn't break the rules. That duet was recorded pre-COVID, so the distance between them on the microphone is okay. All right, I just want to make sure you guys know that they didn't really get within 2 meters, after COVID. This was pre-COVID, so.
Yeah, and that was hardly a very good video. When you watch it, you'll see on YouTube. But we didn't have time. In fact, we weren't even thinking of making a video. We were backstage at a concert, and there was a long passage and a cameraman. I told the guy, listen, could you just stand here and shoot this for me? I put the song on a little player, a little speaker. I said, Demi, quickly, we don't have a video for the song. Just walk through the door, walk up to the microphone, turn, look at me, look me in the eye, stay here until the second last verse and leave. And that was it. We shot it. It's the cheapest video I made, and I think it's had 6 million views already. So it's all worked out very nicely, and it started a wonderful relationship that I have with this gorgeous woman with this incredible voice. And often we tour. She's now probably the highest paid female vocalist in South Africa when it comes to touring South Africa. She's all over the place. And when we clash, when we drive into each other somewhere in the town, we run to the stage together and we do Amanda, and people just love it.
No, it is absolutely amazing. Yeah, that's pretty wild. But like I said, I didn't know that you had actually performed on stage, or Giselle had performed on stage with you. That was kind of a surprise to me when I found that about it. Because I asked Johan, I said, how come Giselle's never performed with Steve Hofmyer? I mean, she's got an amazing voice. Her Afrikaans is different because, she got that country Afrikaans from Namibia. But I said, how come? And he goes, no, they did perform at a concert. And he showed me the video. I was like, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've recorded... singing with people is quite easy, but I've very seldomly recorded with other people. Mm-hmm. But I don't mind a duet per CD every now and then, here and there. I'm in arrears here. I've promised so many people duets. I don't know how I'm going to catch up in my lifetime. But I remember Giselle specifically, I gave her a late warning for a song, and we actually went on stage acoustically and did it.
That's
and
what it was.
She was very professional, and she sounded very good as well, for that matter. Obviously, I'd like to hear more of a on the CD studio performances, see what it is. At this stage, I'm not picking really unknown people. I'm picking unknown people that I'm dead sure is going to help me as well. It's going to help my product as well. And of course, Demi Lee was on her way. We could all see that. Apart from that, I think the other duet I did was with Rihanna Nell, who is a brilliant country singer and gospel singer in South Africa. Very strong voice. We sang Why Me Lord together of Chris Christopherson's. So I am taking established singers at this stage. Every now and then we'll do something together. Me and the boys got together for Die Land. Apart from that, I haven't done many duets at all. I don't have a really female duet vocal partner out there like some of the other singers, but now I've got Demi Lee and we make quite a good couple.
No, you guys do.
Yeah,
good, great singing couple. You guys, it's a really good talent. The voices mesh well together. Great stage presence, the two of you. And you weren't supposed to let the secret out after this big build up. We talk about the quality video production of Afrikaans music videos. Then you tell everybody that you made that video with her for like 20 Rand. You're not supposed to do that, Steve.
Isn't that incredible? Well, it shows you it can be done. Yeah, quality video is very important. I think things have changed from here onwards. In fact, right right before COVID, we were speaking about the end of CDs and, well, basically the end of downloads as well. It's now all streaming, but it shows you how quickly technology is changing for all of us. And if you can make a clever video, a video with impact, it doesn't have to be expensive.
Absolutely. So I don't mean to break in with this, but if there's been several people in chat mentioning, I don't know, I don't have any evidences. They're just sharing this in chat. There's a farm invasion taking place near Hartbeespoort right at this moment, apparently. Someone has put the grid coordinates in there. If anybody's watching, you know anyone that's in the area, please pass the word that there might be something happening so that people, or I don't know if they're trying to occupy the farm or what's happening. But anyway, that's in the chat right now. So let's just share that very quickly with folks.
That's just incredible.
It is. It's like you say, it's happening all the time, and it's just really been picking up lately. Supposedly people are under lockdown. They're not supposed to be wandering around, right? Anyway. Exactly. Anne-Marie Forster is at McDonald's. Okay, I didn't know they were open. I thought you couldn't sit down in a restaurant, but maybe she's at the drive-thru. Maybe it's takeaway. Yep. She's loving. I'm loving it. Great stream, Chris. Well, thank you for that.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, get us a burger. Get us lunch.
There's a lot more comments here, Steve. I can't get to all of them, but Proudly Neanderthal says, please invite everyone to the Witkreuz Memorial Day, the 19th of September. Staan op, staan saam, stand up, stand together. Steve Wies. Is it Wies?
Yes. Yeah. Well done. Well done.
Okay.
Well, that's an invitation for the world to come to the White Cross Monument. It's a very organic monument that somebody somewhere along the line also started counting the dead farmers. Yes. They started erecting for every dead farmer a white cross against the mountain between Pretoria and Limpopo or Pietersburg. And by now, of course, you'll understand there must be between 2,000 and 3,000 white crosses on this mountain. And when you drive past there, it takes your breath away. So on the 19th of August, I'll be there making a speech and maybe singing a song, but I'm going to be there with some of the victims and the families to share.
Oh, you will be there. That I didn't know. Okay, thanks. I'm glad they brought that up then. And just one last question here before we go on to the BLM, because we need to talk about that. Okay, so you've been very generous with your time, Steve, so far, so thank you.
I'm having a good time.
Me too. But we got to be careful, Steve, when you say that, because I've had a 4-hour and 20-minute stream before. We're not going to do that today. So very quickly, Neo Rain says, ask Steve what it was like working with Candice Hillebrand back in the day on a movie. I remember seeing them share a kiss on screen and was being very jealous. Okay, I don't know about that. I didn't see that movie.
Yeah, Candice Hillebrand was our equivalent of, I suppose, what Samantha Fox is, just this blonde, beautiful girl, gorgeous TV presenter, intelligent girl, very talented. We made a movie called The Suitcase Murders. Incredible murder that happened in South Africa many years ago. Two brothers lived with the Dutch guy. The Dutch guy used him to take his credit card to withdraw money. They decided to kill him. When he fell to the ground, they realized that he was actually a bit of a giant and you can't smuggle out the body. They had it cut up, put it in suitcases. They worked through the night, the two brothers and of course the one girlfriend, and they took these suitcases on a train to a crocodile park, but the suitcases started leaking. They threw out the suitcases from the train, and of course the police caught them that way. You won't believe this, but it's a true story. And we made a movie of that, and I played the baddie as usual. I played the main villain, and she played the girlfriend, my girlfriend. But of course, just the most incredibly beautiful girl as well. I wonder if men saw any of the murders in the movie because they all went to see Candice Hillebrand.
Exactly.
I don't know where she's now. I think she's out of South Africa. I think she could probably be in Hollywood. You never know.
Proudly Neanderthal says Samantha Fox is British. Chris doesn't know her. Of course I know Samantha Fox. You forget I spent my adult...
We all knew Samantha Fox. Absolutely.
She's a page 3 girl. I spent my entire young adulthood fighting the Cold War in Western Europe. I mean, we heard all the music, from those days before it ever got to the States 6-9 months ahead of time. So Tears for Fears, I knew all that stuff. I knew who Samantha Fox is. Come on, man. I follow British tabloids.
Absolutely. We had a Samantha Fox poster in our armored vehicle, which is a Rifle 90, which is a bit of a Saracen, I suppose. A Rifle 90 is a 90mm cannon, but because we were armored division, we didn't have troops in the back, so we had space in the back. We had speakers in the back. We connected them to our Walkmans, and there, lo and behold, was Samantha Fox, big poster, which served my time on the border. She was my girl. And I had the honor of meeting her many years later.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that was, we had Samantha Fox. We had Kim Wilde back then. People remember Kim Wilde.
Yeah.
Gorgeous
girl. Yeah. I know we come from good stock.
Yeah, and very talented music too. Samantha Fox didn't do but a couple of songs, but Kim Wilde was a long-performing artist. She did a lot of songs. So
absolutely.
Mornay Duprier says, thank you, Colonel, for your support. Please tell Steve that his Red Gebed song has carried me through dark times. God bless.
Oh, yeah. Red Gebed is it's basically the saving prayer. Mm-hmm. It's a saving prayer. It's basically what it's about. One of my big hits on my last Afrikaans album, I had 3 very big hits on that album, and this is a gospel song. I've called it my it is such a personal song that I almost didn't put it on the CD, because it is really a moment between you and God. It's such a private moment. You don't have to share it. I'm not recruiting people for the Steve Hofmyer church, but it's a gospel song. I'm not a gospel singer, but I do have a gospel song, one on every CD of my 32 CDs, if it's just at least one song. And Red Gewet was a massive, massive hit. It basically says, I have a very small prayer to a very big address. And I hope you hear me, God, when it's a song of obviously the pain that we are in collectively as well, but also as an individual sometimes.
Cool beans. All right, let's shift here. There's more comments, but we'll be here all day answering. Thank you all so much for the questions. We're not going to stop there, but we need to talk now about Steve's recent short video, Discrimination, which I recorded in Afrikaans. I listened to it and I kept up with most of it, but some of it I had a little challenge with. And of course, there's no text for it to me. Just go translate on Google Translate or something like that. So I thought I got most of it, and I said, this is great, but if Steve wants to reach the world, he needs to do this in English, because we're only talking about 12 million people who speak Afrikaans total. So I wish he'd do it in English, but I wasn't in touch with you then, and then you obviously must have already been in process of making it. I got wind. Someone shared with me that you were making it in English, and when you did it in English, Johan, who is Giselle's husband and manager, he listened to both, and he said, you hit everything spot on. And that made, now I understand the Afrikaans better because I can relate it to the English. But listen, this BLM video that you did, Steve, it speaks to a lot of people, all this political wokeness and nonsense and people distorting the truth about the reality about the world. And when so many things are set up to the advantage of people, and then people complain about things that are supposedly in somebody's mind because maybe they view them this way. That's not the reality on the ground. And I found it incredibly powerful, and I've been sharing it this week with your permission on my streams. So can you talk to me a little bit about, or tell us the audience a little bit about why you did Discrimination, what set you off to do this, and just a little bit about it? Because I mean, when you first did it in Afrikaans, did it just come out of you, or did you think about it and then we did it?
No, in Afrikaans, it pretty much came out. I did write down some of it was 42 points, so you're not going to remember them in a row, but I had them there. A lot of people say, what do you know about Black Lives Matter, the organization? And I can gladly say, well, not a whole hell of a lot. What I need to be is very well positioned to understand what the sentiment around Black Lives Matter is, and being a South African puts me right on the spot, right center. And so that's, I suppose that's the first thing that needs to be said. Black Lives Matter, the sentiment around Black Lives Matter, of course, is that black people are being discriminated against, and the perpetrators who are doing all this discrimination against black people are white people. So that's an easy thing to understand if you're a South African. We've lived with that guilt and those accusations all our lives. The third point, I suppose, is the one that I said just earlier on, that these two black societies are probably the most lucky black societies in the world, and sometimes the most healthy and wealthy in the world, but they come from the two countries, South Africa and America. When I did study the Black Lives Matter founding fathers and mothers, it wasn't a very pretty picture either. It didn't look like, don't even go there, don't even go there. Let's just see what Black Lives Matter's relevance is. The moment it blew over to South Africa, it went straight to the sports stadiums, like it does in America. Mm-hmm. And of course, the cricket team with some of the old former rugby captains went on their knee for Black Lives Matter. When we've asked these people for many years, would you go on the knee for like a real crisis, a real crisis, people dying, people who will die before 12 o'clock, people who will be raped before 10 minutes is over, we have never had any success. But the moment the Black Lives Matter came, everybody did the political correct thing, went on the knee and the virtue signaling, all that. And then a couple of sports stars actually stood up and said, wait a minute, what do you mean Black Lives Matter? In this country, if you go that way and you start bring more politics to sport, you're going to start alienating people who really love sport. And that happened in 24 hours. The people bowed their knee. I know you Americans are probably used to it. It happens during the anthem and the singing of that. I think it's atrocious. But the moment it happened in South Africa, we actually have all the examples in the world that make Black Lives Matter's claims, really annuls the claims, basically. So I took a bit of license. I must say I gravitate between America and South Africa, like the taxi situation. You can have 10 people in a taxi, but you can't go visit your grandmother in hospital. I'm not sure if that is an American situation, but It is certainly a South African situation. So I'm not attacking Black Lives Matter, the group. I certainly would not attack black people en masse. I started attacking a small group of people who called themselves Black Lives Matter, the sentiment around it, and of course I didn't attack them until white people took the knee and started bowing and crying about white privilege. Where do all these pathetic people come from, black and white people? And I'd just like to know, are there more of them? Are they growing as a group? Because I hope they're not.
No, I think it's a great point. It's without calling them snowflakes. You're talking about snowflakes. People, when I was a kid, we had still genuine issues with this situation. I mean, I experienced court-ordered federal busing because schools were forced to be integrated, moving black kids from black neighborhoods where they lived to better schools where white kids went, and white kids whose parents were paying taxes for those schools relocated to inner city schools and made a minority all of a sudden. And it was a very difficult time, a fraught time for a lot of people. But this was still the end of segregation, desegregation back in the 70s and 60s, 70s, and 80s. And people actually experienced genuine situations. We see situations in this country where people are given preferential treatment and enter law school based on the color of their skin, which is ludicrous. I mean, that doesn't. It
is ludicrous.
That doesn't make you prepared or equipped to go to school. And then what we see in South Africa, instead of encouraging South Africans, all South Africans, to aspire to be doctors, dentists, lawyers, soldiers, advocates, nurses, farmers, agronomists. Instead of people aspiring, or entrepreneurs, that would be fantastic to be entrepreneurs. Instead of encouraging people to be entrepreneurs, what we get is a political culture like the African National Congress, in which people in KwaZulu-Natal realize, the way to wealth and fame is like so many other African countries. It's to get the levers of political power so I can steal from the contracts, the tenders, and become a tenderpreneur. And so you have this spat of assassinations of ANC cadre in KwaZulu-Natal a decade ago, in which other ANC members wanted that council seat, that ward councilor seat, so they could award contracts and get their hands on it. And they murder other black South Africans. And instead of aspiring to be something constructive, this is the way people see the path to power and prestige, which is just so wrong.
No, it's incredible. I think both our countries have a quite of a torrid and horrid human rights record, maybe, between blacks and whites. It was a slow thing. It emancipated, and it eventually came right. Both our countries. Of course, our country lasted longer. We made it laws. We also had a minority sovereignty to protect. It's a bit more complex.
Yeah.
But in the new South Africa, if at least America has an economy to boast about. We don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
We can't afford to be clever and virtue signaling more. We can't afford to give more to people who politicize sport. It is incredible that even during apartheid, the black income in South Africa was 3 times that of Ghana, and Ghana was the kind of Nigeria of the time. It was like the jewel state of the continent. So I'm not really sure where all this comes from. I do know that if you're going to compensate the wrong people, you're almost certainly going to have to punish the wrong people to get it out of you. And this could be a cycle that carries on forever, and it'll change with every new party out there. I just don't want to do that. I voted yes for the New South Africa because I believed that we are all actually equal, created before God and before the law, especially. I also am not a biological determinist, so I don't believe that there are races that can't do things or genders that can't do things. I believe anybody can do anything. I just believe that certain races didn't do it. There's a difference why some got it right and some didn't get it. But if you 30 years later, after equality, in fact, marginalized groups have never been more equal and more free and more liberated than today. But even today, if you still can't get it right in South Africa now, I'm not going to speak on behalf of black people in America. If you still can't get it right in South Africa, with the richest country on the continent behind you, with their taxes behind you, with the political power behind you, you are the majority by far, which you don't have in America. We are the majority if you're black in South Africa. You have say over other people's taxes. The Constitution is on your side. The academia is on your side. The education is on your side. The media is on your side. Hollywood is on your side. How can you not get it right? You have every white snowflake and every woke snowflake on your side. How is it possible that you are still failing? Surely you're backing the wrong horse. So it is easy to attack the Black Lives sentiment, may I add, not the organization that much. But the Black Lives sentiment, of course, is a universal black sentiment.
Well, as far as the organization, I'll be happy to attack the organization because they're just short of being declared a terrorist organization domestic here in the States, and I don't know what Trump's waiting
on.
Exactly. And Antifa, the so-called anti-fascists, who are the most fascist movement out there, they stomp on free speech, they bully, they beat people like Ernst Röhm's Stromabteilung, the SA back in the 1930s. They're just like them. They were finally declared a domestic terrorist group, and suddenly they've gone very silent as the FBI has finally started doing something other than spying on political candidates in this country. Oops, did I say that out loud? So anyway.
You did.
Yeah, so,
I heard that.
You did hear that.
Well, the ANC was only scrapped as a terrorist organization by Americans the other day. So at some stage, I did mention the BLM and the ANC in one breath because they both qualified at least in the past, as terrorist organizations.
But as an organization, BLM is very much. And people just, these people that just jump on the bandwagon. And let's switch now very quickly to Sia Khaleesi. So people who jump, and I'm not going to say Sia jumped on a bandwagon. I'm not going to attack him, but I am going to quote him and verbatim what he said. And that's what I did in my video about it. And he talks and complains about things that aren't germane to the topic at hand, and leaving us questioning, is he supporting Black Lives Matter? Because that's the impression he gave. And if he did that, he's got a bad publicist, or he doesn't listen to people. Because if you spend 5 minutes going to their website where they clearly spell out their objectives, they want to end the nuclear family. They don't think two-parent families is appropriate. They want Christ out of the church. They want to defund police and have no law enforcement. The list goes on and on. All these radical, absolutely, not even just Marxist, just insane anarchist nonsense that this group supports. And we see corporation after corporation in this country pouring money into them. It's beyond frightening. And so what I'm saying is, when Sia Khaleesi allows his name, or intent, whether he intended to or not, to be associated with that, I think that's a bad move across the board. What are your thoughts? Because someone asked Super Chatter about Sia Khaleesi and this stuff.
Yeah, no, listen, we're talking about great athletes, but very young boys, actually.
Exactly.
And I've spoken to all these captains. I've spoken to many of these people that are involved here, because we are also colleagues, and some of us are contemporaries. And it's not been an easy decision for them to say no. But it shouldn't have come to that. We shouldn't, 30 years into it, still be saying these things. We should just play sport again. I don't think Sia Khaleesi was in the team because he wasn't good enough, or he was there because of his skin color. He's really a good athlete. And Kaya Ntini was really a good cricket player. One bending of the knee, one bit of virtue signaling, and all of a sudden I'm back where I was 30 years. I am doubting all black people in sport now, because I think I'm distrusting all black people in business again, because it seems to me this is going to be what it is. It's going to be edging them into it because of skin color. Because of skin color has been something that I tried to walk away from 30 years ago, but skin color has become everything in South Africa. In fact, they now insist that skin color and the differences and distinguishing between skin color, they insist on that now, because it's become, obviously, you have preferential procurement, you have affirmative action, you have black economic empowerment, you have quotas, you have representativity. Apartheid wishes it was this racist. We could never be this. Didn't have time for it. And apart from that, apartheid, of course, was a race-based kind of sovereignty. Let's face that. But the new South Africa was not supposed to be that. The apartheid showed us exactly how not to run the country if you want to carry on successfully forward. And here we go and repeat every single mistake. And 30 years later, our young leaders in sports teams are verbalizing the stuff that has grown so archaic and old. I can't believe it's coming out of the mouths of people younger than me.
Well, and in many respects, Steve, my argument on this, when it comes to this, is that the fact that it's coming back, and it's in many ways worse than previously. Now, of course, I'll get slammed to this and flamed for this, but let me explain. It was a minority government that was doing it to a majority before. Now the majority is ruling by tyranny, and they're imposing this on minorities who have no power, despite this nonsense about white monopoly power, and this is very dangerous when you oppress a minority, because that has happened throughout history. The Turks did it to the Armenians. We've seen it all over the world.
It's a bully tactic.
Yep. So Paulie says, would love to see Steve and Big Daddy Liberty go crush narratives together. They'd be quite a team, I feel. Both want the same end goal for South Africa. Are you familiar with Big Daddy Liberty?
Yes, I am. And many of the classical liberal people on the left, black and white, we can sit around a table and have a good conversation. I had a wonderful lunch with Unati Kwaza the other day, and she comes from that team, from that side. Mm-hmm. Today, I think she's with the Capitalist Party. So I do have an understanding of that. But amazingly, that the Freedom Front, which is probably the only conservative party in South Africa, predominantly white people would flock to the Freedom Front. It's amazing that if you read their constitution, they're probably the only classical liberal constitution there is. They want your property to be safe. They want freedom of expression. The only thing that differs between their constitution and the rest of the countries is they actually bring God into it as well, which I'm perfectly okay with. Others won't be. So yeah, I must say, I do follow Big Daddy Liberty. I like most of the things he said. And when I sit with Unati and speak to Helen Ziller or people at the DA, we have enough parallels to go on, But I must say, the DA, which is our Democratic Alliance, they've given us plenty of the virtue signaling. In fact, it's been tiringly so. But they do still are the municipal power in the country, where the province under their control, obviously, is the model province in South Africa.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's when I looked at the 2019 election, of course, the Freedom Front Plus had this reputation, not that it was earned, but a reputation because of the way press portrays people as a right-wing Afrikaner party full of racists and all this stuff. But when I looked at the 2019 platform for what they were running, because I hate the term manifesto, that's too communist for me. You know, even the DA calls the ANC calls it a manifesto, the DA calls it a manifesto, and right there I have to talk to Steenhuisen and tell him you need to take that nonsense out. That's not the right word. But anyway, but for the Freedom Front Plus, I looked at what they came up with, and it's classically liberal. There are some conservative elements there, but it was more middle of the road, and it's not what's portrayed. But I don't think that they get enough attention or they do a good enough job. I've invited Tammy Breach. I haven't heard back from her. I just recently invited her, a member of parliament, to come on and speak. And I don't have any contacts with Dr. Groenewald, but I would love. But anyway, so I'm trying to get them on. Also, I've invited the DA on the channel. But you mentioned Unati Kwaza. She's my guest tomorrow, back on the channel. I've had her here previously.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, she's
wonderful.
She's a wonderful guest.
She must be one of the most fearless black people I know. She certainly isn't doing this for popularity. Yeah. She's extremely straight. She and I will most certainly have our differences. We haven't come across to that yet. So far, we've spoken about our similarities. Now, so many of them that we'll be friends forever if it carries on like this.
No, she's brilliant. I mean, what disturbs me is that, you know, I've been to South Africa probably about 450 times, Steve. I used to live in Botswana, so I went to Pretoria and Rustenburg every weekend. So, speaking of which, someone's asking where you live. They were curious where you live, but we're not giving exact location. But I'm guessing you live around Pretoria as your normal house. Is that fair?
Yeah, I'm in Kyalami, which is between Johannesburg and Pretoria. I'm not a farmer, but I do live on a hectare out there. I've got 2 reindeer in my garden. So that's about the closest I'll come to farming. I also have 4 chickens and lots of dogs and cats. Yeah, so that's me. But sorry, to get back to your point.
No, but you should get some guinea fowl. They make decent alarms, guinea fowl.
I believe that. I believe that. And ducks apparently as well.
Oh, yeah, ducks too. That's right. But so what I was going to say is that what's disturbing for me is that there's actually a lot of black South Africans from all different ethnicities, whether they're, especially the Tswana and the Basotho people and the Xhosa. There's a lot of black South Africans who don't believe in this nonsense that the left is perpetuating South Africa. They actually have a classical liberal view or even a conservative view. And you'll find a lot on my channel. For instance, somebody came on here spewing nonsense a few weeks ago or a week ago, and they said, oh, yeah, this channel, all the moderators just white people. They keep deleting people. Not knowing that half my moderators are mixed race, colored, and or female. Not because I have quotas, Steve. I didn't go, I need a colored moderator. I need a woman. No, people just flock to the channel. They liked the discourse, what we talked about, how I treat my guest and the subjects I talk about. And they said, can I be a moderator? And I didn't even know it. One guy, he's colored. He lives in the UK, and I didn't even know he was colored. I don't care. I mean, we share the same worldview.
That's the way it should be.
Exactly.
One person said, thank you for what you're doing for the Rainbow Nation by having lunch with Unati, who is a black person. And I said, listen, you're giving me way too much credit. There wasn't an effort at all. We didn't even think of, why would we be thinking about that? We're just going to eat and chat and we become peers, and that's the way it is, you know. Well,
I'm guessing a lunch with Unati was probably just a pleasure. It was enjoyable.
No, it was. I wanted to tell you, I'm not going to go back to the Black Lives Matter video, but my inspiration for the Black Lives Matter video was the Rubin interview with Larry Elder. When Dave Rubens, the white guy, said to Larry Elder, the black guy, you know, how do you feel about all this institutionalized racism? Larry Elder returned and said, could you give me an example? And half an hour later, they were still talking, and Larry Elder was still saying, Dave, you haven't given me an example of this institutionalized racism that you're talking about, where I can give you hundreds of laws all over the world discriminating against white people, but they're not burning down places for it. So I'm just saying that the thing that we're saying now, I've made sure not to have my sources and resources for my Black Lives Media to be white people. They are all black people. They are Larry Elder, Leonidas Johnson, Candace Owens, people that I follow gladly, and are very intelligent people, and I think they make very good points.
Well, before we wrap that conversation up and get close to ending this whole thing, there's a couple of super chats. But before I do that, all I need to know about all these woke, annoying people, I don't know what to call them, but these annoying folks around the world, this side of the Atlantic, that side of the Atlantic, all I need to know is the following. I don't know if you know David Webb is. He's a conservative talk host. He's on radio here.
Yes.
He happens to be black. It just happens to be black. But David Webb was on his channel a couple months ago. I was out actually exercising. Now that I'm off active service, you got to keep moving. Otherwise you get that beer belly. You know, I don't want to look like that. So I was out exercising, and I get tired of all the people throwing their rubbish on the side of the road. So I just started picking up aluminum cans, crushing them, and coming back with a bag full of aluminum because it can be recycled. Anyway, so I'm out walking. I'm listening to David Webb in the morning, and this woman comes on there, and she just starts going off, well, we have this and that, you know, white this and white this. And yeah, well, who do you think you are, David Webb? You and your white privilege. And he says, I'm sorry, this is radio. Maybe you don't realize I'm actually black.
That should have pulled the plug on the whole thing. Woo.
Yeah, well, this woman,
great.
she was one of these clowns that was trending because she said all these inflammatory things, which are just nonsense that people don't question. And then after that, she just flamed out and nobody hears about her anymore because she's been exposed for just a person who just runs around. They don't know what they're talking about. They just say things. They just say nonsense.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I'm ready for a world that doesn't see color. But it's not going to happen for as long as one of the colors becomes all entitled. And that's what we're having, an entitlement as a disease in South Africa, and it looks like over there as well.
So, Steve, listen, I mean, I have to put a break on myself because we could go forever. So I'm gonna wrap up here shortly. So listen, Steve, I'm gonna offer an invitation to you to come back to the channel. I'm not gonna put you in the spot and ask you to come back if you want. So I'm just gonna say it's extended. You're welcome to come back on the channel at any time.
Thank
you just
you,
let
sir.
me know. My pleasure.
Thank you so much. I had a great time, and we kept good company with all the guys who.
It's fantastic.
We wrote in.
There's a couple, and there's some really great questions here. There's a couple more super chats I want to mention before we, but before we talked, you said, "Hey, should I grab my guitar?" Are you still up? Do you still have the energy to sing a song for us?
It's actually right here. There we go.
Okay,
I don't know if you can hear it.
Well, let me do. Yeah, I can hear that. Let me do the super chats real quick. Robin gave us 70 rand super chat with a big thumbs up from the hippo. I don't know if that's a Cyril Ramaphosa hippo, but it's a big thumbs up. And then Alvin de Bruin. Okay, let me try this to Steve. Ek is nie jou roeste from Groot. Okay. Ek is nie jou roeste van altyd nie, maar ek is verskriklik dankbaar dat jou stem daar brood is. Dankie. Sorry, I probably butchered that.
Well, that's wonderful. Saying that is it he or she is not always my greatest fan, but she appreciates the fact that my opinion is out there, and that's actually enough for me. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
That's pretty cool. I think that's a good way to say it. So there's more stuff, Steve, but I put you on the spot because you mentioned it. So if you could play something for us, they were asking for the Blue Bull song. I don't know if that's a good, but someone asked for this song a little while ago. You probably have a song in mind, but I don't know the song, an 80s theme song, Trans Karoo. I don't know if you know that, but I mean.
Oh, Trans Karoo. It's almost a traditional song. It's a very popular old song, yeah.
But whatever you'd like to sing for us, if you don't mind, Steve, that'd be really awesome. I appreciate it.
Well, let's do a piece of all of them.
Okay.
Trans Karoo, neem maar huis toe. Laat jou goue wiele rol. And something like that, I can't remember the lyrics. Die Blue Ball sounds like this. It's a rugby song. Die Blue Ball, get die van die vloer af. Die Blue Ball, get die van die vloer af. Die Blue Ball, sukkel die se roer af. Nou vra jy my vir wie ek skree. Where it began, I can begin to know it. But then I know it's growing strong. And waar gaan jy speel met jou maatjies? Waar gaan jy eendag toe? Hey, that's die land, if you remember. If jou die son en die see en die land my kind, beloof jy sal my aan die einde vind. My hart sal aan 'n waai, die strate sal ek saai vir jou. That was the big hit. And of course, I've held it all in word. Lord knows I tried. It's an awful awakening in a country boy's life. To look in the mirror in total surprise at the hair on my shoulders and the age in my eyes. Amanda, there we go. A short medley of all the songs.
Absolutely brilliant, Steve. Baie dankie.
My pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much. I had a great time. So.
Yeah. So one of my favorite phrases of late, because I'm talking about what's happening in South Africa, ek is hartvol, but definitely not with Steve's music. Definitely not.
I love that.
Definitely not with your music. Let me just adjust the channel here really quickly and get everybody. There we go. So I got both of us on the screen now before you head out. So Steve, seriously, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Listen, you're a great, as we say in German, you're a great mensch. It's awesome.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, well, that's all you want to be. It's all you want to be remembered for. Colonel, it was an absolute honor. I salute you. Thank you very much. We had a great time, and thank you for getting our word out there. Thank you for being so well informed and well prepared. It's always nice to speak to a host who can do what you do. Thank you.
No, it's absolutely my pleasure. I really enjoy it. You're as I said, yes, a legend in South Africa. So it's just brilliant to have you on the channel. And thanks to everybody who tuned in for the show today. Steve, thank you so much. As I said, invitation's open. You're welcome to come back at any time. And even if it means I steal you away from Germ, that's okay. Don't worry. He gets enough of your attention.
Absolutely. I've seen him 3 times. He's tired of me. Thank you, sir. I had a great time. And thank you for everybody who's watching us and listening to us. Thank you so much.
All right, Steve, I'll ask you to drop out of the meeting there, and then I'll just wrap up. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Goodbye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only artist, singer, songwriter, actor, musician, Steve Hofmyer. Oops, it's still there. Let me see if I can change that real quick. And I'll take him into the waiting room. More to waiting room. There we go. Okay. All right, folks, there you go. That's, come on. Little operator timing and headspace issue here. Let me get back to that. Okay. And, okay, folks, thank you so much. Wow, thank you for tuning in to this special feature today on Chris Wyatt Africa, and my many, many thanks to Steve Hofmyer. Listen, folks, one of the reasons I asked for interesting guests like Steve Hofmyer to come on is to talk about events and issues. Obviously, we talked about the discrimination video today and Black Lives Matter, but I wanted for people to get to know a little bit more about Steve Hofmyer, particularly those outside of South Africa who may not know him as well. Some South African performers are known very well outside the country. Steve is known, but I don't think people really know Steve, and this was a good chance for people to get to understand him. For instance, when I say people know performers outside Africa, one example of that, of course, is Nadine Hofveld, who was supposed to be my guest, but was unable to perform or come on the channel previously. But Nadine is well known in Europe, but not a lot of South African performers other than actors. Some of the actors are very well known because they come to the United States and become performers here and play it in Hollywood. But anyway, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. I really enjoyed this stream today. Thank you so much for the super chats, for the new memberships. Congratulations to Morton, who got to be the 100th member, which was a goal of Morton's. Really do appreciate it. I want to thank you all. Listen, if you're not a subscriber, take a moment and subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely free. If you're interested in becoming a member and supporting the channel, you can become a member. And also, hey, can we get that number up to 400? We got 369 people who are listening to me now, and Steve is gone. I know you're going to depart in a moment, but take a moment before you leave and push that figure. We're at 358. Can we get the likes up to 400? That would be really awesome if you guys could push it up to 400 likes on this stream. Really, really would be awesome. Steve Hofmyer, very generous with his time, 2 hours of his time. He's got kids running around the house he's got to take care of, so really do appreciate his time. Thank you all for tuning in. If you're not a subscriber, become a subscriber. And feel free to leave a comment on the channel about this video. Happy to take comments. Where appropriate, I'll answer them as best I can. And then don't forget the likes. Folks, thank you so much to my regular audience who's here and also anybody who's new. Really awesome. On the channel, we've got, let me take a look now. We've got, I think, approaching 7,000 subscribers to Chris Wyatt Africa. So thank you so much for that. That's really awesome. Let me just double check what the actual number is. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 6,674 subscribers to the channel. Picked up a number of subscribers today. Thank you for joining us on the channel. I think you'll find this to be an interesting channel in which we believe in discourse and we discuss events. I don't want to say dispassionately, but we have 101 members. I just double checked. And you got it. Okay, so we got 101 members of Chris Wyatt Africa. Thank you all for that. And really do appreciate everybody. So we got 400. We just hit 400 likes. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you, Proudly Neanderthal. Listen, folks, I did my best to get to everybody's questions. I couldn't get to all of them. There were quite a few. And comments, even as you noticed, snuck a few cheeky ones in there. That was my pleasure. I really enjoyed sticking a few of those in there. But also, we addressed a lot of things about Steve Hofmeyer's career, including his military service, which was interesting for me. And so thanks a lot, guys. Really do appreciate it. Tomorrow on Chris Wyatt Africa, folks, in case you didn't hear it during the stream, Untitled Chapter will be back on the channel, and we'll be discussing events in South Africa. She'll be my guest tomorrow at 12 Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. in Gaborone and in Johannesburg, 5 p.m. in Windhoek, Abuja, and London. So please tune in tomorrow to catch Untitled Chapter, who's a fantastic and a fearless young lady from South Africa, a businesswoman and a conservative person involved in politics and economics. She's fantastic. And on Sunday, we have an interesting stream, which I haven't been mentioning on the channel, but on Sunday, we have a video with an ecologist who is part of the Palabora Natural Heritage organization, which is based around the Kruger National Park. That will be Rian Lerm will be on the channel Sunday for a special feature. So that's what we got coming up next couple days, folks. By the way, if you know any former Springboks or any current Springboks who might be interested in coming to the channel, let me know. Send me an email, because I also interview folks for rugby on the channel. Would love to get them on. My apologies to my fellow Stormer fans wearing the dreaded Blue Bull jersey today, but that was just a sign of respect for my guest. I'll be back to my Stormers jersey. Anyway, so thank you guys so much for tuning into the channel. I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm going to drop off here in just a moment, but I do want to thank you all for your patronage, for your support, for the super chats, for the cogent, wonderful questions that were in there in the commentaries. Really appreciate that. And I hope that you got a chance to see a different side of Steve Hofmyer, because if, like so many people, if you just read the popular press or listen to what people say, then you'll be getting an impression which is not coming from the person himself. So Steve got a chance to share his thoughts here. Most of what he had to say when it came to politics, I'm in agreement with him on. There are a few things that maybe I could quibble about, but the overarching issue here is we're in agreement on the big issues here. So like Steve, I wish that 26 years after the end of apartheid, that race wasn't the dominating figure in political speech today, but it is. And it's not being pushed by people who are the ones being attacked. It's being pushed by others. So it's really sad. But thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Good to see all the roadies in here, the old roadies. I see them as well. Thank you guys for the super chats. And everybody hang in there. Somehow, everybody's going to get through this. I'm going to go ahead and knock off and thank you for your time and ask you to hang around and check out my videos, folks. Go back, check my Sia Khaleesi cutting up your Springboks jersey video. There are no farmland murder. There are no farm murders in South Africa. President Cyril Ramaphosa. A hot fall with Ramaphosa, the NCC, and the ANC. Check out those videos. Feel free to share them with others if you like. Thank you for following Chris White Africa. I really enjoy all the support. Congratulations, Morton. You are number 100 membership there. Okay, folks, going to close out there. Thank you so much. Not going to close with Giselle today, because I'm not going to try to top Steve Hofmyer in his short little medley. That was really nice of him to provide that for us. Really did enjoy it. But we are going to close out, and I will be back for a Night Owls edition in 2 hours and 20 minutes, folks. Yeah, 2 hours 20 minutes at 9:35 in South Africa, 15:35 here in the U.S. Eastern Standard Time. We'll have the Night Owls edition, and I'll be able to take your questions in better detail then and answers about Steve Hofmeyer's appearance here on Chris White Africa. So, folks, thank you so much. God bless. Have a wonderful and safe evening. Good luck to whatever's happening in that farm invasion up there, if that's actually taking place. Please keep those folks in your hearts and minds. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, there was an update from the Right Reverend Rawhide. He's out of the hospital, and I guess doing okay. Out of the hospital and back home. Samantha Fox poster was next to the Lambo contact poster on his wall as a kid. Okay, so the Right Reverend Rawhide is recovering from his stroke. Thank goodness he's in good spirits, and thank you for your patronage. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, happy 75th birthday to my mother. I know I said 55th, but we're just having a go with that. For years, I was 29. I never turned 30, and my mother always said, what's your problem? I said, think about it. If I'm 29, that means every year you're just 49. Well, now my mother is 75 this year. Congratulations to my mother, who's not in the best of health. But happy birthday, Mom. We love you. Anyway, folks, thanks a lot for tuning in to Chris White Africa with my special feature guest, the one, the only, the legend, Steve Hofmyer. All right, folks, we'll catch you later on the Night Owls edition of Chris White Africa. Thank you so much. And where's my closeout channel? Is all the way down here. Here it is. Okay. I have to move that up so I can do a proper job closing out, folks. All right, here we go. All right, God bless and have a good night.